Garibay. No good. Baylor keeps their Big 12 championship hopes alive with their 10th win of the season here in Waco.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
6 seconds to go. Mordecai going to step up. One last play. Throw to the end zone. Into the end zone. Knocked around and caught. It is caught. Reggie Robertson with the deflection and the touchdown. Are you kidding me? SMU on the final play of the game. 5th touchdown pass for Tanner Mordecai. Heavens.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
And here's a reverse. Heading to the corner. Heading. Touchdown, Michigan.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So Thayer Thomas deep to receive the punt. Pressure comes, it is blocked. North Carolina State's get a fall on it. Touchdown, Wolfpack.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go. 365 Sports, YouTube, our title sponsor of TFNB, your bank for life. Of course, in the background with Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Ideal MRI, Petty Clinic, and so much more with us and how we bring it every day to you. We hope that you're ready for today. We take it till 6 with Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoak to my right, and I'm David Smoak. And man, a lot to talk about because last night there was a story that came out with the Sports Business Journal, and we will discuss that here in just a second. Also today, we're going to check in on SMU's NIL deal. We discussed that yesterday, but Billy Embody joins us. Jonas Pope IV on NC State. Ross Dellinger, SI.com at 4. And Mac Rhodes joins us today. John McClain today. Craig's off the radar and Paul's top 5. So here's a tweet from earlier today, following up yesterday evening when it appeared as if all reports saying that ESPN no longer is involved in any talks with the Big Ten. ESPN has pulled out of the Big Ten media rights negotiations, ending one of the longest sports media relationships in the business, saying no to the conference's final offer, 7 years, $380 million per year package. And then John eventually wrote a story about this, and of course there has been numerous reaction to it as well. So what does this mean? It means ESPN has money to spend and they need to fill some programming. What does it mean? The Big Ten is doing something unique, and what it means in the end, I don't know. Brett McMurphy, Big Ten finalizing media rights with Fox Sports, CBS, and NBC, according to the Action Network, but also again with John Aran. And unless there's a last-minute change, and there won't be, 40 years the Big Ten and ESPN with basketball and football is over. That is from Brett McMurphy. I've seen Nicole Auerbach, Ross Dellinger, many others respond to it as well. Paul, what does it mean?
Well, what the Big Ten is doing is pretty brilliant because on Sundays, when you watch television, when you watch football on Sundays, what channels do you watch football on?
On Sundays.
On Sundays.
There's 2. Well,
There's
Sunday
3.
night, there's 3 at night because of the NBC game, football game in
So
America. Yeah.
what the Big Ten is doing is they're mirroring the NFL in that you can watch the Big Ten on CBS, you can watch the Big Ten on NBC, and you can watch the Big Ten on Fox, which will be all across. So Saturdays, if you're a Big Ten fan, will look like Sundays if you're an NFL fan, overlapping. I think that's really good. We can get into the sales job that they have done on their overall conference later on in the show, but this is a pretty interesting and aggressive TV deal. And to cut out the worldwide leader in sports is really interesting, considering that's a very long relationship. But when ESPN doubled down in the SEC and got that window away from CBS and became exclusive to that, I'm not surprised that Fox and the Big Ten said, well, what can we do to be different and set ourselves apart? They've certainly done that here, and they're going to get a ton of money from it, over $1 billion. It's going to be huge for the conference, and $350 million or $80 million, whatever it is, from CBS for that 3:30 window. And now they're going to get to, and the SEC in no small part got big because of the 3:30 window on CBS. That's the best window. We saw the thing, or the 7 o'clock, but that's the second best window. And the Big Ten could get bigger and more popular because of that, because as we've seen, whatever people have done it, whether it's Tony or Sam or whoever has put us TV numbers up, it's about the network and the time and where they fall that really does things. And that CBS 3:30 window is huge.
Yeah, there's still some blanks that need to be filled in for me to have like some concrete opinion on this. I mean, the Big Ten striking it rich is not a surprise. That's been expected. That's been talked about for weeks on end now. It's just a matter of when we're actually going to know what the real deal is. And we're not mentioning the fact that there's going to be a streaming partner. Peacock could very well have its own games in addition to all the other avenues that you mentioned, and does not exclude the fact that Amazon or Apple, whoever wants to get involved, whoever might be involved as far as a streaming partner as well. So, yeah, I don't think we've seen the dust settle on this Big Ten deal just yet. I think based on Nicole Auerbach in particular, a tweet I saw from her earlier, as well as a couple of others, the Big Ten is definitely sending some feelers out through the media to throw some stuff out there in terms of, hey, let's just casually throw this bomb out there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nicole Auerbach did that like 2 hours ago with the whole I had to pull the tweet back up, but it was very clearly to me like I think somebody probably said, hey, would you just throw this out there?
I'll say this, and yesterday afternoon she kind of threw something out that led to what then happened with the story involving ESPN.
Yeah, and so there's that to me was very obvious. I mean, that's not disrespectful to say, and she's doing her job, but she threw out a tweet about 2 hours ago. Does the Big Ten look further into the possibility of a Western wing? If the league wanted to, it could look both to the Pacific Northwest and the Bay Area. That could give the conference inventory for the Saturday late-night TV time slot a fourth window. So that, to me, is entirely intentional. That's rattling the cage of the Pac-12, especially the Bay Area and Pacific Northwest. Is that just coincidence that that's exactly where she mentioned in that late-night window has been such a big topic, which, I don't think that that's coincidental. I think there's some intentionality behind that. But, yeah, I mean, the Big Ten – none of us, the least surprising thing is that they struck it rich. I mean, that's been expected for a while now. Multiple networks has been expected for a while now. I do think that, not pretending to be a TV executive, those initial figures, especially when they're talking about like the hundreds of millions for just a 3:30 win, like something's not adding up here. Something is there's some more clarity that is needed here. I have to feel like there's just something else going on behind the scenes. And I don't necessarily mean expansion or something like that, but this just doesn't feel like it's totally settled to me.
Well, one of the things is that number. Remember now, a few weeks ago, the number was like each team was going to get over, 100 million or so. Those numbers still aren't quite there. That doesn't mean they won't get there, but they did kind of like, hey, we're going to give everybody over 100 million than USC, UCLA. So let's just let this thing play out. So our friend yesterday, Bob Thompson, I say friend, former Fox Sports executive who spent a lot of time with us yesterday trying to explain some things. He was asked, do you have that? I don't know if I sent that one to you. Yeah. So there was Patrick Crakes, who used to also be in sports television broadcasting as far as executive. Forcing CBS to keep the SEC window will cause issues in completing the deal with the Big Ten. This is perhaps an interesting leverage point. ESPN could get the window a year early for free, or maybe even leverage for ESPN to secure some Big Ten content will be interesting. And then Bob Thompson, who we're about to hear from, CBS is paying pittance for that window. I imagine SEC, ESPN would gladly take those games back early. ESPN, ABC will find some place to put them.
Yeah.
Now, I had a chance to visit with Bob Thompson for a little bit today, and I told you I was going to haunt him. I got his number, and so I asked him a little bit, and this is about 5 minutes, Garrett, is that right? This is just a Q&A with him from earlier today with Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive.
Yesterday evening, Sports Business Journal reporting that the Big Ten and what they do may not include ESPN at all, like completely out of the mix. Did that surprise you?
Well, it shows you a lot can change in a day, huh? Or in our case, about 4 hours. Yeah, it surprised me a bit. I always thought ESPN would still be in there, but, it's a 40-year partnership that they've had with the Big Ten. So this is it's a big maneuver. Some of the reporting that's gone down is that they were walked on a $380 million deal for about 13 games, which is significantly more than they paid last time around for 27 games, as well as the package of basketball. So I guess, their allegiance at this point in sort of their primary windows are going to be the SEC and for the foreseeable future until that deals up the Big 12 and the Pac-12.
What does that mean, in your opinion? Is that good news for the Big 12 and also possibly the Pac-12?
Absolutely. I think if you always want to have someone on the outside looking in if you're one of the other properties. And right now you've got ESPN on the outside looking in as it relates to what used to be a very big package of college football and basketball for them. So I think it's good news if I'm the Big 12 commissioner and the Pac-12 commissioner.
ESPN, they have all the money now. They have extra money, but they also have content they have to fill. So is that something where they could actually scratch the itch for both those conferences?
It's possible. Absolutely. I mean, they've got ESPN and ESPN2 and ABC, so you've got 3 outlets that theoretically can each air 4 college football games a day if you count on a 10:30 Eastern time window for, say, West Coast games. So that's 12 games a day times 12. That's 144 games a year that they need, and they're not going to get there without having the Big 12 and or some Pac-12 or a combination of both.
Is there a chance that Fox is going to try to see what other money ESPN has left to maybe still get involved?
I would be surprised. It came out yesterday that the announcement yesterday made it sound to me like they were shaking the trees to see if any more ESPN money would fall out. And that would probably came as from a leak from somebody either within the conference or Fox. And then after that, when ESPN responded this morning in the way they did, which said they're dropping out, it sounds to me like it's over and done.
And obviously ESPN would have known about this before it's reported. They know. I mean, they're a part of all this. What do you think the reaction has been inside ESPN?
I think, it's whenever you lose a big property, there's a little bit of shock and and maybe a little denial. And then it's like, all right, move on. What's next? And, it's nothing personal. The ESPN knows that. The conference knows that. And it's like, okay, we kind of, sweep everything up and put it in the trash and let's get back to business.
Bob Thompson with us, Thompson Sports, Inc., former Fox Sports executive. When ESPN began back in the late 70s, they reported on sports, coverage sports. It was about whatever was the story that was the number 1, 5, or 10 story of the day, highlights, whatever. Do you think all of this change and churning of TV rights, for example, now let's say they don't have the games, does that change the way they cover the Big Ten on SportsCenter and other game day type opportunities?
I've never really seen that. A lot of people pointed to hockey and said that when ESPN lost to hockey and it went over to NBC, that they never reported on hockey. Well, I never found that to be the case. ESPN went for years without the NBA, and reported on the NBA. So, I mean, it can't be a journalistic endeavor and avoid a conference as big and as, year in, year out strong as the Big Ten is. You would look almost foolish.
So now the next move is what you think?
Well, I think that Pac-12, ESPN / Fox and whoever else discussions are gonna pick up pace pretty quickly. I still maintain that the existing members of the Pac-12, if they can get a deal that they deem reasonable, they stay together and nobody's going anywhere. And if I'm the Big 12, I'm watching those discussions closely and, keeping my ear to the ground to see what's going on and then make my moves accordingly. And that may be talking to other schools, or it may be as simple as, all right, we're next up. Let's get our ducks in the row for our TV deal.
What's the definition when you say the Pac-12 is something reasonable? What would reasonable be per school in distribution with the new deal?
Well, a lot of it depends on how many packages they have. Is there a streaming service involved? Things like that. I've got to think they want to get as close to $40 million per school as they can, and then under the anticipation they're going to get a good hit with the new college football playoff. Those numbers would be reasonable. I don't know that they can get there. I think, $35 million per school would be good. The other thing you have to take into consideration is this the opportunity for an Oregon and a Washington to maybe say, all right, we're bringing more value to the conference from a football standpoint than anybody else. We need to create some sort of mechanism whereby if we're the big dog in the show, we get paid a bit more than others.
Isn't that what eventually kind of created so much friction in the Big 12 when Texas, Oklahoma, and others were getting more than others?
Absolutely.
Doesn't that rot? I've heard that, and I understand that, but to me, that just creates friction before you even start something new.
It does, but I think for some of the schools in the Pac-12, if I'm Washington or Oregon State, I think I go, okay, well, is that better than me getting $8 million a year from the Mountain West Conference?
If the Pac-12 finds that with Oregon and Washington, that they would also give them any kind of an early type of out if they were invited by another conference, or would that completely be a death knell?
That would be tough. If I'm Oregon and Washington, I want to maintain my exclusive or my ability to move either for no exit fee or a minimal exit fee. I can't imagine the conference going forward with Oregon and Washington without some form of grant of rights and some penalties should they move. But I really think Oregon and Washington are going to want to retain that flexibility.
Appreciate you giving us extra time again today, Bob Thompson, Thompson Sports, Inc.
Bob Thompson, Thompson Sports, Inc., and now consultant television. He negotiated 200 different type deals, former Fox Sports executive. And so what now do you think is next? The Pac-12 finds out if ESPN is going to spend some of that money with them?
I'm sure that, they probably have to. And I think one of the things that, not necessarily, but.
We need the Big Ten to figure out the deal.
Yeah.
We're talking about this like it's been announced publicly. This is all pure speculation at this point. I just saw a tweet a second ago of, what was it, the Fox part or the one part of the deal that the Big Ten's apparently having is going to be matched. Like it'll be $350 from Fox and it'll be $350 or whatever from CBS, and it'll be so. We need to figure out what the Pac-12 is going to do, but I think you got to figure out what's the Big Ten doing, because who's the one that could go in and break up the Pac-12?
Yeah,
it's the Big Ten. So if the Big Ten signing this massive deal, which I know for even some Big Ten people last night, they saw those numbers and went, wait a second, this doesn't make total sense. This is more than bargained for. So either they're just getting way more money than they expected in some cases. Maybe it's exactly what they thought. But I think it's either more money than was expected, or like I said a few minutes ago, something seems unsettled here. There's details that we don't know yet, and that could be just the deal itself, or that could be something even bigger. I'm not trying to speculate too much, but I don't think we have enough clarity alone on the Big Ten, because what if their deal's bigger because they've swung a situation where Notre Dame's coming, Or what if their deal's bigger because Oregon and Washington are coming? So, I need to see that first, because that will then obviously say the rest of it. But I did see a lot of victory laps being taken last night by the Pac-12, by the Big 12 sort of kind of, because I think they're still so in the dark that they need to see what the Big 10 does, what the Pac-12 does, and so on and so forth. But I don't know. There seems like there's a couple of different ways this could go, quite frankly. And I think until the Big 12 tells everybody else what basically they're going to do and what they're going to look at Big 10, that, what else are you going to do? The Pac can't really move forward unless they have some assurance that everything is going to be as is. And that, to me, is the tricky part, because as you just talked about, so are they going to get the type of deal where the Big Ten's going to say, all right, we're hands off, we're not going to touch you guys, go ahead and have your little deal, Oregon and Washington and Stanford, we won't come get you? Or is there going to be this open-endedness that is obviously going to play into whatever kind of a deal the Pac were to sign, which then, of course, plays into a billion other different spin-off, topics?
Well, Notre Dame's AD Jack Swarbrick has sent out a notice that he's having a town hall or whatever of sorts to let everybody know what the kind of plans are, the options are for them moving forward.
I wouldn't think that a town hall meeting is when you're going to announce some kind of massive.
But, I think that's where he's going to gauge. He might be able to gauge some kind of response to it. And because there might be, I don't know what Notre Dame fans are thinking. Do they want to be in the Big Ten? Because they could have done that at any time in their history. Like what's changed now outside of the money and the path to the playoff? One, we have to figure out what the playoff is going to be. We're going to have to figure out so many of those things. And, what does Notre Dame want to do? Like Craig said, are some of these things open? So now the Big Ten knows its TV deal, so now it feels comfortable offering Oregon and Washington, as where the USC-UCLA thing was in the works for months, so they knew that was going to be part of it. But that could have been the end of it for the TV networks that said, this is the money that we're going to spend, and we're happy with this, and we don't care about that other stuff. But now that they say, yeah, we do care, rope in a couple more teams. And
so you think what we learned last night is a possibility that includes Washington and Oregon? Is that what you're saying?
If there's more money there than they thought. Like Craig,
I don't think there is more money. I think it's about what everyone thought it was going to be. But we don't know that for sure. We don't know the exact whatever billion. But I don't see that as an Oregon-Washington thing. If it is for them, good for them.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's directly them. Again, Notre Dame hasn't made a decision. Yeah. So until Notre Dame makes a decision, this is all unofficial. I think that's pretty simple. And then, there's the Pac-12 side of this as well. But is Notre Dame joining the Big Ten? You would think that that's a part of these conversations, no? You'd think that that's probably being brought up with Fox and NBC and streaming and everybody else, Peacock. I'm imagining that's part of the equation. So if they're a part of the deal or if they're not part of the deal, that's going to obviously lay some dominoes out in a pretty specific way, because Notre Dame being independent or going to the Big Ten is going to have ramifications on everybody else. And if you're the Big Ten, the reason why I'm saying the thing about the Pac-12, even though I'm really focusing on Notre Dame, is they're negotiating a TV deal right now, okay, worth billions of dollars. The entire time we've been talking about realignment and expansion. So is this TV deal going to have some sort of deal built within it that in 2, 3, 4 years, if Oregon and Washington or Stanford or the Big Ten decides, hey, we want to go do something, is that in this agreement? Or is this settling the waters for the next 5 to 10 years, which I doubt? Or you see what I'm saying? We don't have clarity. I don't think this is just simply, this is a deal for the schools that are currently in the Big Ten and the 2 LA schools, and then boom, that's it, that's done. Now, if it is, that's notable, because that means that everything's pretty much staying status quo in the Big Ten and status quo with Notre Dame and status quo with the Pac-12 and so on and so forth. So that's to me what's going to be interesting is the actual details of this and what all it encompasses, what room's left over, obviously, for others. And I just saw a lot of, victory laps being taken by, like I said, various conferences, the Pac-12 in particular. And I don't know. I just wouldn't be so sure just yet. I do think it is good news on the surface for the Pac-12 and to a lesser extent the Big 12. But until I see something concrete, I don't know if that's the case or not.
All right. Thank you again to Bob Thompson for giving us that extra time today. Matt, Super Chat, the campus visits by your mark are nice, but now is not the time. We need him focused on moving our media rights this year and poaching the Pac-12. Matt, his phone, I have a feeling, is constantly in yes forward mode. He's doing that because I think that's important for him to go see who he's dealing with. The campuses, including yesterday, he said it back in July. Yesterday was in Fort Worth.
Craig brought up I would think the most legitimate critique of him when he was hired, and Brett Yormark, in that this is a guy who's been in the Northeast for a long time. What does he know about Ames, Iowa? What does he know about Manhattan, Kansas? Now, that's not something he can't learn, but if he won't, or if he didn't right off the bat, then that would have been a problem. And I don't think that, you really need to beef too much with Yormark because he's going to campuses. I mean, this is 10 days of what's going to be a 2-year negotiation, which I'm sure all that's part of it, because the Big 12 can try to open the window, but if the television networks are waiting on it, then...
Well, that's the other thing, man.
Yeah.
I don't like, we're all just taking this as face value, and maybe I'm just like a tinfoil hat guy, but who's to say there's not something that he's working on in the background?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, if the Big Ten deal all of a sudden comes out and there's an out there to somehow bring in a couple Pac-12 teams, and then Yormark can swoop in and knows he can go grab some more. Like, I'm not saying that's happening, but until I see a Big Ten deal that says it's this money on these networks for these teams, and there's no outs, and so it's got to stay this way unless, like some team wants to pay $80 million to get out of their conference or something, then I think
somebody's not leaving the Big Ten, what you're saying, right?
Or to join them or something.
Okay.
But outside of that, like, what assurances do we have that the Big Ten's not going to still swoop in and grab somebody?
None.
Here's why I say you don't, but who else out there is going to be valued at $100 million a year?
You're right, but again, we don't know what Notre Dame's doing.
No, you're outside of them. They're always the wild card.
Right.
Outside of them, who else in the country?
And maybe they would be fine being an uneven amount of teams and just having Notre Dame, and that's fine if that's what they do. But again, that has a domino effect because then the Pac-12 stays as is. Now, if you're Oregon and Washington, is that enough assurance of like, okay, we're not going to the Big Ten, we'll sign this grant of rights with the Pac-12? Or are they going to keep their options open? And that's why the whole victory lap by the Pac-12 last night to me was a little strange because, yes, I see where that leaves a big a hole for them to fill in, that late night kickoff, which God forbid they didn't have that. Like if they didn't have that, there would be like nothing in their favor basically other than just the West Coast. But that's like their thing, obviously. But okay, if that's not guaranteed that, they're not going to expand or whatever, you're just going to like have Oregon and Washington just like on a loose like 1 year deal when they can get out whenever. You know what I'm saying?
And I asked Bob that. And here's the thing. That is death before you even start breathing to me. That Oregon and Washington demand more and get more money because we heard his reaction to what happened in the Big 12. That eventually was like termites just eating away at the conference's stability and eventually killed it. And then also on top of that, allowing them, we want you, we're going to give you more money, we're going to let you leave when you want, with a little bit of a tie-in of what you pay. To me, that's just your dead man walking.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is like, until we know some more details, is like, this could go 4 different ways. Okay, for one, the Big Ten could add some Pac-12 schools. And the Pac-12 is suddenly hurting, and the Big 12 swoops in, and they grab some teams, and the Pac-12 dies, right? The Big Ten could do nothing, and the Pac-12 sits there. Now, that goes one of 2 ways. Does everybody want to go sign a grant of rights agreement because the Pac-12 is safe now, and you just move forward the way you are for the next several years? Or is that still not quite enough, and you explore a merger again? Or the other schools go, you know what? No, we are going to explore Big 12 territory and see what that looks like with their future TV deal. Like, there's got to be something like substantial here to settle the waters a little bit.
You know who we have not brought up at all, and they all of a sudden look, we've mentioned the SEC, but guess who else we haven't brought up? Because you know what? They're actually okay. The ACC.
Yeah.
They're just sitting back, let everyone else just like beat each other. And the ACC sitting back, chilling. They've got all these years left. There's no rush. There's no urgency. Maybe they will renegotiate that for a lesser amount of years and more money. Who knows? But they're okay.
But does Notre Dame not have an effect on them as well?
Well, Notre Dame has a huge effect on them. And I know there's a thought that like Notre Dame is Big Ten or bust. But I do think there's a sliver of hope that the ACC has that they could tell Notre Dame, hey, we need you to come in here and help renegotiate our deal. And Notre Dame could go into the ACC and they could be the boss of that conference. Because right now, Notre Dame is their own boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if they're going to join a conference, if they join the Big Ten, Kind of like Texas joining the SEC. Texas is not going to join the SEC and be the boss of that league. Now, they're going to throw their weight around as much as they can. Notre Dame's not going to join the Big Ten and be the boss of that league. Now, they'll have sway, but Notre Dame can join the ACC right now, and Jack Swarbrick can be like, hey, guys, quiet down. I'll take care of all this for you. And that to me might be a little intriguing to an organization that is run by the organization that it's run by.
Yeah, I don't buy Notre Dame in the ACC.
I'm telling you that.
I also don't buy that the ACC is a bunch of feeble people. I think there's a few more schools that may say, hey, listen, we've got a pair too. But I get what you're saying as far as the clout. Here's a note from the 573. Notre Dame has no vested interest in joining the Big Ten until you change the status quo. In other words, why would they do anything until they are forced to join another conference to make the college football playoff?
I agree. I've been saying for a while now that I think it makes them less special if they join a conference. I do. I think that it takes away that one thing that is unique about them. And yes, I realize there's other schools that are independent as well, but they're not independent on the same wavelength as Notre Dame, okay? They're either a service academy, which all due respect, or they're like Liberty, which I don't have as much. So they're on a different plane by themselves. If they join the Big Ten, I understand there will be a segment, especially in probably the Midwest and North, that think like it's still Notre Dame and they're above all else. But no, to me, even with the knowledge of who Notre Dame's been, they're just a Big Ten team now. They're the same as Ohio State.
They're just now they're just attached to a conference.
They're the Catholic Notre Dame school. Yeah. I mean the Catholic Big Ten school. And so that to me is what I really believe that little shine of special that they have that nobody else really has. I think that would be lost, and they would not be as unique Notre Dame as they have been my entire existence.
Okay, we've got a lot to get to in the next couple of hours. Mac Rhodes at 4:20, Ross Dellinger at 4, his latest on all of what's going on today. Hope you've enjoyed the opening part of this. Thanks to Bob Thompson. Billy Umbody, he works for On3 Sports, covers both LSU and SMU. Just a quick hit with him about the NIL yesterday, the announcement with SMU, which we did discuss, and some of you with your opinions on that. And then Jonas Pope IV, the News and Observer, as we focus in on NC State. Well, man, there's a lot to get to. Appreciate you. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress. You can say, hey, call me anytime you really need something. And you can say that, and then you can mean it. With Dr. Steve Childress, he has meant that a couple of different times because I've had some pain in my mouth, in my dental work, with my dental work, that really shut me down. The guys here know one time on a Friday evening, afternoon, I was struggling. I mean, I had a back right molar that was just killing me. I called him. I felt bad about it. I said, man, I don't know. Even if you just deaden my mouth. He was out to dinner, met me at his office in Robinson at Stonewood Dental, and he took care of the pain, relieved the pain. I went back in on Monday morning. He fixed the problem. It was a root canal that just flared up. Also had something happen to me very early on a Friday morning. He met me there and took care of it then. And Fridays at a dentist office are always busy, and Stonewood Dental's always busy every day. He found room to fit me in and took care of that problem. It's part of me not taking care of my dental work for so many years, and eventually it comes back to bite you. Dr. Steve Childress, customer service and incredible professionalism and excellence in dental work. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
We have back-to-back, whatever, keep going, like a home run derby. Segments including right now Billy Embody, he covers for On3 Sports, LSU, and also SMU. Today we focus on yesterday's announcement, SMU, and the $36,000 per football player and men's basketball player. And Billy, thanks for your time. So SMU got the death penalty for basically being able to do the same thing now that's legal, correct?
Pretty much. You know, that they included some community service that the guys have to do. They stuffed some backpacks for DISC Saturday night, but yes, it does appear that way.
They need to be seen. They need to be able to put their arms in the air. We know that last fall that there was even discussion that perhaps they could be a part of something in the future, but everything's changed so dramatically. Do they feel like they can still put themselves in a position to be at some point higher at a level than they are right now?
Yeah, I think so. And their actions over the last year have really backed it up. You know, they offered Sonny Dykes that big extension. He ended up going to TCU, and that whole drama played out. But then as soon as they hire Rhett Lashley, they announced a $100 million end zone complex. And SMU doesn't just announce things. They need to get to a certain point fundraising-wise to announce those type of things. They don't just kind of put out press releases and say they're going to do something. So that is, you know, a level of commitment. They went out and signed a huge transfer class, thanks in part to, you know, their big NIL collective that was already in place, over $1 million in deals from the Pony Sports Dallas, Texas group. And then, you know, the boosters, a couple of them got together and, you know, we want to do something that's massive, that'll change the game in a real big way. And that's that every scholarship player is going to get a little piece of the cut. And by little, $36,000 a year. That's pretty insane, considering, you know, SMU pays the full cost of attendance for these players that are on scholarship, and that's a lot of money. So these guys, and I was talking to a couple people yesterday, these guys are probably getting, about $50,000 in total kind of payout between legal from the school side and then legal from the collective side of things. And that's not even counting some of the players that have big NIL deals already. There's a couple of $100,000 a year players that now have an extra $36K to go along with it. So it's pretty wild.
Billy, how much do moves like this tell conferences that may be looking to add a team, Big 12, Pac-12 down the line, that SMU is open for business?
Yeah, I think it just continues the trend that they've been on. They've been relevant the last few years. They haven't finished any of those seasons the way they've wanted to, for whatever reason, whether it's the coaching, rumors last year or just kind of falling off during COVID or what have you. But they're committed. They're committed to winning at a very, very high level. Not comparing the two programs by any means, but I don't think anyone argues with Texas A&M's commitment to doing it right and doing it at a high level, but they don't have anything to show for it. I'm not saying SMU's going to go to the SEC because of that, but they're a viable option for a conference like the Pac-12, for a conference like the ACC, or even the Big 12 if they look to expand. And they're going to be on at least the list of schools that you give a very, very serious consideration to, because at this point, they don't have necessarily the Power 5 resource and TV money coming in, but they're spending like crazy to try and make it happen. And so, they're hoping that they break through with a 10-win or a conference championship type season and finally kind of back all that up. But they've always been a school that spends at a very high level, whether it be with basketball, with their Moody Coliseum renovation, whether it be, heck, even their pool is one of the nicest in the country, and tennis facility too. So they spend money on athletics and they do it at a really, really high level. And so I think every conference, quite honestly, notices that to some degree.
Billy, when the Big 12 was doing their expansion, they added the 4 that they added, but they also at least kicked the tires and just explored the possibilities of others. And SMU was one of those, along with South Florida and Boise State and Memphis was another one. And probably some others we're not even aware of. But there has been that Pac-12 talk out there. I'm sure you've seen it on social media. How much stock do you put into, and I know you just kind of talked about it a little bit, but how much stock do you put into any smoke surrounding the Pac-12 and SMU?
I put a decent amount of stock into it. I think it's a very kind of natural situation. If the Pac-12, I think, wants to grab a hold of some sort of central time zone foothold, get into Texas, a lot of the Pac-12 schools actually recruit Texas pretty hard. So being able to say, hey, you're going to play in front of your hometown or your home state, a couple times in your college career is probably a decent thing for some of these schools to consider. You get the TV market, and you just kind of hope that, look, this is a school that is committed to spending at a high level. And when schools are committed to doing that, I think they almost force their way in to being relevant and to being a school that's talked about on a national level. You look around the country and there's some schools that just don't do it. And just because they're in a Power 5 conference, they end up getting attention at some level. There are a few examples of that, but SMU's done it. They want to break through. I think that's the big thing. That is up next for SMU is winning big, and they've got to do that, in my opinion, just to kind of validate everything. But there are very few schools that are spending like SMU is in terms of trying to make the Power 5 a reality for them.
Will their attendance change if they won? If they were at even, they're in the group of 5, and they're in that what you have is a hope and dream you can play for the national championship. But will their attendance ever get better if they start to have one of those runs?
Yeah, their attendance has grown a lot over the last few years. They really have done well putting butts in the seats, believe it or not. And it's just always one of those things where you look across college football and you look up, LSU playing directional state, or, even LSU playing a bad whatever SEC team, and Tiger Stadium, it doesn't have 110,000 in there. Very rarely does that happen, that you get that in college football where a stadium's sold out. You look at some of the big games SMU's had, Cincinnati, Memphis, TCU, North Texas draws really well. I think a lot of these Pac-12 ACC schools that actually probably have a decent alumni base in Dallas are going to, want to go either visit their friends if they live out of town and come in for the game, or they're going to have a nice little showing. It's not a huge stadium, but it's a lot of fun when it's got a packed house. I think, they've got a good student body representation. It's only a 5,000, or so undergrad population. So when you see that corner kind of filled up like it's been the last couple of years, that's an 80% type of turnout from the student body, which is pretty impressive. It's just, there are all sorts of factors with attendance across college football right now, and I think SMU catches a little bit of flack for it, just because of the conference matchups that they sometimes draw. Last year's team didn't get the best slate, but it's a program that's on the rise, and they've improved attendance very, a pretty good mark over the last few years just in general.
Billy, thanks for your time, man. We appreciate it. We'll get you on again down the road. Hope you have a great week.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Billy Embody, again, On3 Sports, on3.com. He covers both LSU and also SMU on the NIL deal with SMU. The Super Chat, which yesterday I failed to bring one up. We do have Jonas Pope coming up. But I want to do that now. Garrett, do you have that? From Phil, he was very upset with me. To get more, I didn't read it. I guess it just went by so fast, so we want to do this. To get more marquee games, why don't the Pac or the Power 5 schools cut down on some of these cupcake games? The cupcake games fill their stadium, or at least most of them.
Get some bowl
and
eligible.
Get more home games, and in some cases, yes, allow you to be able to get some schools to 6 wins.
The cupcake games only go away if you get to that Super 2 giant conference thing where the cupcake games will be marquee names that just happen to suck at that time. Because then they
breadcrumbs thrown.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not. You're not
here. We're keeping college football alive. We'll pay Furman $2 million to get their tails kicked.
But that stuff will only go away when that happens. And the SEC is not going to stop doing it.
There'll be some argument of we can't play each other the whole season because it will be too hard, even though we're talking about 3 weeks of the entire year, and even though they'll have more teams. But I'm about to leave because I got to go to Baylor. I'll be back later. I don't know if I'll be right for the segment depending on how long it goes. But I did want to talk about this at some point, and I'll leave it with y'all. I know you got guests coming up.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for the Big 12? And I'll see y'all later.
All right. Well, we're going to have Ross Dellinger on today and Mac Rhodes today in the 4 o'clock hour to be able to answer perhaps those questions. Craig enjoyed practice. Jack McKenzie's on his way to practice as well. Also, there is always that Notre Dame question about the Big Ten and much more. Most of you that are at least texting and or commenting on it is that they're not doing anything. And then even some of you don't think the Big Ten would want Notre Dame a part of it as well. I'm just repeating what you are saying to us. It's a thing we could go on forever. Coming up next, Jonas Pope IV. He covers North Carolina State. He's joining us next on SICM 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Boozer's Jewelers. I recently got engaged. As a matter of fact, it'll be a month tomorrow that I will be engaged. And when I went in to get my ring at Boozer's and get that custom ring done, because I knew it was going to have to be custom, Amanda's one of a kind, so her ring can only be one of a kind. Thank you for that. But I went into Brad and I said, look, I don't know anything about rings. I know what she kind of likes because she's sent me multiple Instagram videos of different rings of things that she likes. And I need something that's kind of in this realm. And he said, no problem. We got it. I said, well, how long is it going to take? And this was about 8 weeks before I proposed. He goes, it only takes about 3 weeks. And I thought I was kind of running behind at the time, but my whole plan was not to have the ring in the house where she could find it at any given time. And so I went to Brad. He had the staff get on it. They sent me, they kept me up to date throughout the process and showed me a couple things. And then boom, ring was done a couple weeks before I expected it. Done, beautiful, fantastic. She gets nothing but compliments on it. I get nothing but compliments on it because Boozer did an outstanding job. So if you were looking to get engaged, or look, upgrade your wife's ring. It's time to, it's been, 10, 15, 25 years. You're ready to upgrade that ring. They can do a custom job for you. They can do whatever you need. It's absolutely unbelievable what they did there and what they did for me. Great financing available. All that at Boozer's on Valley Mills Drive. Believe me, I probably wouldn't have gotten a yes without Boozer's.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know the average American pays over $500 a month for their car payment? What would you do if you didn't have to make that payment for 90 days? Where else could you use $1,500? Keep your car payments at Genco. Buy new or refinance your current vehicle and have no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of our low rates and no payments for 90 days. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies insured by NCUA.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Jonas Pope IV covers North Carolina State, works for the News Observer, and joins us. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Jonas, thanks for your time. So the top 25 coaches poll came out. NC State just outside the top 10. I thought that was fair. What was the reaction from most NC State fans or those who cover them?
Yeah, I think the fans expect to be top 15. Some of them even thought they'd be top 10, but I think this is right where they thought they would be. Same with the writers who covered the team. They thought they'd be within the top 15. We actually went out to practice today and talked to a couple of players and asked them what they thought about it. For the most part, they said, it's preseason. It's not that big of a deal. They don't pay a lot of attention to it. And a couple of guys said they actually prefer to be the underdogs. That might have been a little too high for them being inside the top 15. But it's what the fans thought, was what us writers thought, that they would be a top 15 team heading to week 1.
Dave Doran has done a great job in the years that he has been the coach there. That they were up and down for so long. Jonas, what is the key that he has brought there with the stability and what makes it that offense they run is kind of unique? What is it about Dave Doran that's gotten them to this point so quickly?
I mean, he had a plan, he had a vision for how he wanted his program to look, and he stuck with it. He's very proud of the hard, tough together motto that they go by. He's very proud of the fact that they bring players in and develop them over the course of 3 or 4 years. They don't bring in a whole bunch of 5-star guys. They bring in some 2-star, 3-star guys, and they develop them. They give them the weight room, they redshirt them, or they bring them along slowly. They don't throw them into the fire early, and that's something he's very proud of. The work they do to get to that point where you can have an Isaiah Moore or Drake Thomas or Tanner Ingle, guys who have come up through the program and are now like all ACC type guys.
Jonas, NC State, obviously, as we mentioned, in the top 15. I think 13 is where they're ranked. But what are some things they must find out between now and they open the season against East Carolina?
Well, they got to find out who their left tackle is going to be. Their left tackle, Ike Ekwonu, was number 6 pick in the NFL draft last April. He'll more than likely be replaced by a redshirt freshman, Anthony Belton. That's a big position on the offensive line to replace. They got to find out who's going to be the new running back. They lost Bam Knight and Ricky Person. Both of those guys are in the NFL now, and there are a lot of unproven guys at that position back. Jordan Houston was a classmate of Bam Knight, which means he's been around for 4 years, but he's playing behind Bam at Ricky, so he hasn't got a lot of touches. He'll get the first touch, and he'll get the first shot at being a starter when they play ECU. But there are a bunch of guys behind him who are unproven, who haven't got a lot of college carry. So those are going to be the main 2 issues they're going to find out. They got to get answered in camp before they head down to ECU. Defensively, they got to force more turnovers. They got to find guys who are going to be ball hawks. They didn't recover a lot of fumbles last year. That's been a big point of emphasis. And they really didn't get to the quarterback. As good as they were on defense, they got to find some guys who can rush the quarterback in that 3-3-5 and really get the quarterback to the ground.
One note about NC State is week 3 for them, September 17th, they play Tech. So Texas Tech, a Big 12 opportunity there for Tech and also for NC State as well.
What will get them over the top in beating Clemson and getting in the ACC title game?
That's a good question, because last year we said they have to win the games that NC State would have lost in the past. So they won the Clemson game. But another game like that, they won at Florida State. Those are games they might have slipped up in the past. This year, I have to get over the hump and win some big-time road games. They got to win at ECU to start the season to get some good momentum going. They got to win at Clemson, a place they haven't won since Phillip Rivers was there. They won the big games at home. Then they got to go on the road and get that done. If they can do that, win on the road at Clemson, win at Louisville, win at UNC. They won't be easy games, but they can knock off those road games that has haunted them in the past, and they could definitely be playing in Charlotte.
Jonas, one other thing with the story last night that came out, and most of it being chewed on today with the Big Ten, and eventually whatever they're going to sign their newest TV deal, and that ESPN is out of that. There's so much, as you know, and of course initially it was like, oh my God, the ACC, and that's going to happen to them. And I said this earlier in the show. After all of that maybe consternation a month or so ago with USC, UCLA, and what it seems like they're just going about their business, aren't they? The ACC just kind of, hey, let's play football, see what happens.
No, they definitely are. It's funny, when all of this first started, everyone was acting like the sky was falling. Everybody was scrambling. What's going to happen with NC State? What's going to happen with the ACC? And I remember having a conversation with Boo Corrigan, the athletic director. He was like, "We're fine. The grant of rights is going to make sure that the ACC is probably going to stay intact a lot longer than people realize." So he was calm. He wasn't worried. And he's like, hey, for the next few years at least, the ACC as we know it will still be like the conference that you see today. So, yeah, they weren't worried. Like you said, they're going about business as usual.
Jonas, thank you, man. I saw the video. Is that video of your son? Is it your son?
No, my daughter.
Your daughter. I'm sorry, your daughter. That how good is that as a father, huh?
Oh, she's a superstar. I realize people come to my social media just to see her. No one comes to see me. She's a real star of the social media.
You're used to it, man. That doesn't change, and it shouldn't. Thanks for your time, Jonas. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jonas Pope IV, News and Observer, covers NC State. And, again, joining us on SicEm 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We'll break here, come back with Ross Dellinger, SI.com. Mac Rhodes joins us at 4:20, Baylor Director of Athletics. And his thoughts about whether or not that story involving ESPN out of the Big Ten has been on his radar. You know it has been, or at least he knows about it. What does it actually mean? As Craig mentioned, what does any of this mean for the Big 12? What does any of this mean perhaps for the Pac-12? SicEm 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center on Valley Mills, just off Valley Mills in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor, loaded with cigars. I was there this past weekend on Saturday. Went by there and I said, Ashley was there in Cheyenne. Carol also, of course, Carol owns it. I said, I want you to set me up with a few different types of cigars, brands. They all know what I like as far as the length, the Churchill length. They know that I want kind of a smooth, light cigar. And, man, they went to work. And then put about 8 to 12 cigars in this pouch. I took it home, and I'll have that when I play a round of golf or two between now and when football season starts, and then I have to shut down the golf game. They have a 48-foot walk-in humidor. Aston and Macanudo, Romeo and Julieta, Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Cohiba, Padron, yes, CAO, My Father, name them, they have them. The EP Carrillo, and so many more. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, your home for cigars, fresh coffee beans as well, and CBD products in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
During the Make This the Summer event, Allen Samuels is celebrating with an incredible lineup of new 2022 models, like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. These vehicles bring power, style, and a smooth ride you'd expect from a Jeep. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a third row. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First down throw. Smith and Jigba's open. And again, Stroud drops it in. Stiff arm all the way to the end zone. Touchdown, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Craig is at Baylor football practice. Be back here in a little bit, but there's always, every day we can get Ross Dellinger on the show. It's great from SI.com, but obviously after the story in the Big Ten, what ESPN's decided not to do or what, and Ross joins us as college football's landscape churns every single day. Ross, what does the story about ESPN out of the Big Ten mean to the Big 12 or the Pac-12, or maybe even anything to do with Notre Dame?
Well, I think it probably does have far-reaching implications and impacts on virtually, from every corner of college sports. You mentioned 3 of them there: Big 12 and NBC, Pac-12. The Pac-12 deal comes open first. And in fact, the negotiating window, I think, with ESPN for the Pac-12 ended last week. I believe maybe they've extended it. Either way, they're the next ones up in the media rights kind of negotiating. And so you would think for the Pac-12 and for the Big 12 as well, their deal comes open in a couple of years, that this is ideal. That ESPN will now have 27 every year now, 27 more open slots to fill that the Big Ten had filled, and they'll have a lot more money to dole out. So there are certainly more opportunities there for those conferences who have deals coming open in the next year or two. And then Notre Dame is an interesting one. Obviously, ESPN's supposed to be part of the Big Ten's new deal, and that you could look at that 2 ways. You could look at that and think, well, if ESPN's paying X amount, or if NBC's paying X amount for the Big Ten, then maybe that doesn't leave them much money to negotiate with Notre Dame, and negotiate up, because you would think Notre Dame will try to renegotiate their deal with NBC, given the market reset, all this money. But you can look at it another way, in that NBC knows what to ask for now, and that Notre Dame knows what to ask for from NBC. And NBC is invested in college football. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how all this kind of plays out. But I would say, if you're the Pac-12 and maybe the Big 12 and any conference whose deals coming open, this was good for you if you want to be a partner with ESPN.
Do you think that the Big Ten TV deal would still leave the door open, or now that they might know the money that they're getting, it might leave the door open for them to say, okay, now that we know what we're getting, Oregon, Stanford, Washington, whoever, they decide could opt or could be back in the water for them?
You never say never in this world. I don't expect that
to happen. I don't expect the Big Ten to expand again in the near future, but I didn't expect them to expand this past summer either, and I didn't necessarily expect the SEC to expand last summer. So these things are really hard to predict, but most of the signs point to the Big Ten, at least for now. And I'm not talking about 2 years from now or 4 years from now, but now, right now, in the coming months, to be done with expansion. But there'll be a clause in. There always is a clause in these TV deals, these media rights deals that consider a growing membership. So there'll be a clause just like in the SEC's deal that gives a pro rata share to anybody new if the conference expands. So it's always a possibility to get, you can get more money if you expand, and we all know it's about money these days. So, I don't expect it immediately, but do I expect it eventually? Probably so.
Ross, is there anyone other than Notre Dame that could join the Big Ten that would make a difference financially for them?
No, I don't. Not. I will say that there might be one or two ACC teams that maybe would add value, but they're, as we all know, right, they're stuck kind of in a grant of rights that probably at one point will be challenged because it's 14 years. They're locked in for 14 years, so I don't think they're going to go 14 years being locked in this deal without some team or teams challenging the deal, and that'll be interesting to watch. So if you don't include SEC teams and don't include ACC teams because of the grant of rights, and you're looking at just everybody else, I don't think there's any other team from the Pac-12, Big 12, Group of Five, or the other independents, except for Notre Dame, that adds value. Is you don't want to take a team that decreases the financial, the revenue distribution that you give to your schools. And Greg Sankey actually was on Dan Patrick's show this morning and said that, asked about expansion. He said you don't want to take away, you don't want to diminish the revenue to your programs by adding schools. It's not about quantity necessarily as it is about the quality they add and the finances and revenue they add. And I think Notre Dame is probably the only viable option for the Big Ten to actually add value. And that's why I think they sit right now only having taken the two, USC and UCLA.
And again, if you're Notre Dame, why would you change a thing about your life? You have a direct path. You run your own thing. You get to tell other conferences your thoughts, and you don't have to share that input with other schools. It seems to me that they wouldn't do that unless the rules change.
Well, yeah. I think they wouldn't do it maybe unless the rules change, or the CFP expansion doesn't give them access. Think about it, there's probably two reasons why Notre Dame would join a conference. One would be because as an independent, they don't have good enough access to a playoff. Or two, they it financially. And right now their deal with NBC is fine, but it pales in comparison to what some of these Big Ten schools are going to get. And that's why I'm sure they're going to renegotiate their deal in some way with NBC. Probably even maybe put an ultimatum in there, right? Renegotiate our deal or we're joining the Big Ten. You could kind of see that maybe happening. But we all have to keep in mind, too, Notre Dame still would owe the ACC an exit fee. And all of Notre Dame's sports outside of football are in a grant of rights locked in for 14 years in the ACC. So there's still that pickle as well.
Ross, you had a tweet from earlier today about 11 o'clock about the Big Ten and how they are putting together this schedule with what they have now with Fox, CBS, NBC, whatever they end up doing, and mirroring what the NFL has done. Why would somebody have not done that prior to this year?
Yeah, great question, because I think it's actually what they're doing seems, as a few people I've talked to today have described it, as pretty brilliant. The taking the NFL approach of distributing their games across multiple networks, not just one, not just two, but three very big networks, Fox, CBS, and NBC. And they'll have the three windows and three different, time slots in three different networks. It's pretty cool. They'd have their number one game would be the big noon kickoff. Their number two game would be on 3:30 p.m. on CBS. And then probably their third best game, and sometimes their second best game, would be the primetime game on NBC, and would be led into by a Notre Dame game. So it makes a lot of sense to kind of spread it out and have multiple media partners. It's funny because it's something the Pac-12 has talked an awful lot about. George Kliavkoff, their commissioner, and lo and behold, it's kind of the rival conference that took his members and also is doing the media, holding the media strategy, media rights strategy that he kind of has talked about quite a bit. And we see Kevin Warren doing that. It's an interesting way to do it. And then they'll have streaming too, which I think most believe that Amazon and or Peacock will be involved in the streaming in the Big Ten.
Yeah, Peacock would make a lot of sense. I guess Paramount would also make a lot of sense. It's that 3:30
Peacock is
game.
NBC.
And Paramount is CBS. Yeah.
And Mike George, by the way, mentioned that earlier in a text to us as well. I don't know if we said it backwards or not, but I thought I know Peacock's the NBC.
Yeah, so those would both make a lot of sense as to who your partner would be, even if you didn't decide to bring in Amazon. But that's the piece that I think a lot of people are confused about or waiting to see is how much the streamers like Amazon and probably to a lesser extent on college football, Apple, really dip their toes in the water when it comes to college sports.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I was talking to somebody in the Big Ten and said, man, how do you feel about having ESPN, cut out? I asked him that. And he said, Russ, how much do you have ESPN on your TV outside of live sports? And I said never. It used to be so different, right? The answer to that question even 5-7 years ago was so different. SportsCenter used to sit on my TV, but not with the internet and with streaming and stuff. It just doesn't happen as much anymore. And so I think there's more comfort in ESPN being cut out and going, as you're talking about, more to streaming. And having that be a bigger part of your package in your TV package. And I think we're going to see that in a lot of places. We're moving into an era. It's the media. It's funny. The media rights kind of TV era right now that we're in is kind of comparable to the college sports era we're in. College sports is moving out of amateurism more toward professionalized, and media rights is moving out of linear and more towards streaming, and we're kind of caught in the middle. College sports isn't completely professionalized yet, but we're getting there. We're on the way there, and streaming or media rights isn't fully streaming yet. But boy, it feels like we're going to get there, and it might be really soon.
Ross, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Ross Dellinger, SI.com with us, covers college football, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. When we come back, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhodes. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Sometimes you wish you could live life backwards. Learn from your mistakes before you make them. I pushed back my dental work for I can't tell you how many years because I knew I wasn't treating my teeth the way I should, or my gums. And so I was scared to go to the dentist because what's going to happen? They're going to find a cavity. They're going to find something they need to do and stick a needle in your mouth, and it's going to hurt. It's painful. Well, here's the deal. Dr. Steve Childress of Stonewood Dental changed my outlook. I told you about him earlier in the show. He's my dentist. And then he told me, hey, David, you need to be proactive. You have a couple of teeth that have to be pulled, and you need crowns, and let me tell you who's the best at doing that. And he mentioned Dr. Scott Warren at Brazos Oral and Facial Surgery. I saw Dr. Warren a few years ago. He gave me some suggestions. I wasn't ready for that. But after years of neglect created issues with my dental work, I went back to him. He replaced and pulled a couple of teeth and also inserted dental implants. And it was a smooth operation. It was smooth surgery. It was something that I probably, if I'd known it was going to be that comfortable, would have done 5, maybe 8 to 10 years ago. Years of neglect have created this with me. Dr. Warren and his great staff received the highest quality oral surgery care with teeth removal and also dental implant replacement or placement. Also, I was also gun-shy about dental work because I knew the results. Now, I'm not afraid to go see Dr. Warren. And now, in fact, next week, I have a follow-up to clear me to then have crowns done in 2 teeth near the front of my mouth. Brazos Oral and Facial Surgery. Dr. Warren excels with dental implant surgery, bone graft reconstruction, wisdom teeth removal, corrective jaw surgery, facial trauma, and reconstructive surgery. No doubt, he is the best. I've experienced that firsthand with teeth removal and the implants that now I have in my mouth, and I'll probably get more because of how comfortable that has been. The experience with Dr. Warren in Brazos Oral and Facial Surgery, committed to excellence, providing top-notch patient care and customer service, compassion for the people they treat, including me. If you have been where I've been and you want to get something done, let me suggest and tell you about that with Dr. Scott Warren and Oral Facial Surgery. Brazos Oral Facial Surgery at 254-399-9925.
Holy cow, has it been a hot summer. You could fry an egg in the bed of a pickup truck. Jay here from Pickup Outfitters here to give you a little heat relief and some protection for your poor truck bed. August is bed cover month at Pickup Outfitters, and we're making it easy for you to cover up that hot bed on your truck with discounts of up to $200 plus matching rebates of up to $200 and double your warranty on many of those covers. That's up to $400 in discounts and rebates plus double your warranty on bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And you get our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance, which makes for a worry-free purchase. When's the last time you could say that about your bed, a truck bed? Get your poor bed some heat relief with a brand new bed cover, including name brands like Backflip, Undercover, X-Tang, Retrax, Roll & Lock, and Truxedo. Up to $400 in discounts and rebates with double your warranty. It's only at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhodes, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers. Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhodes, with us on Tuesdays most every week. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Again, Craig is over. In fact, near where Coach Aranda and his football team are working out. He'll be back with us a little bit later. Mac, thanks for your time. Paul, Catalina, and David Smoak. So the news last night that's out, it's not official yet, but it's out that ESPN is no longer in the Big Ten business as far as the television right. Did you get much feedback from that, and is that good news for the Big 12?
Yeah, there's a lot to that question, and certainly got a lot of text messages from people just asking, is it good or is it bad for the Big 12? And I think one, I'm not saying that the reporting is inaccurate at all. It very well may be true, but until that's officially announced, I'll wait and see. And there's gamesmanship in all of this, and again, could there be a possibility, a potential that got out there on purpose so that there's a certain rallying cry for ESPN on behalf of people within the Big Ten, and we really can't lose presence on the Big Ten, etc. So I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to be careful on how I state that, but if it's true, obviously the end of a 40 year plus relationship, and what does that mean? What does that mean for ESPN? And when you particularly think about the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC, is that a good thing? When you think about capacity, and certainly everybody's got capacity when you think about dollars spent or dollars invested. Does that equate to more money for the Big 12 or the ACC? And we all know that the Pac-12 was in that 30-day window process with ESPN, and so it's just so fluid, Smoke, and it's hard to really determine at this point in time whether it's a positive or it's not a positive. I would say in general, if ESPN now has more capacity, more money to spend, I would naturally say that it's good for it's absolutely good for the Big 12. But how that exactly plays out obviously remains to be seen. And ESPN is it's going to be the CFP in the future as well. So a lot of different things to be thinking about. But when the Big Ten deal is actually announced, then obviously we'll know for certain, and you'll begin to see some, I think, additional dominoes fall.
Mac, how can the Big 12 in its new form, because I kind of look at it, I know that there's history there, but I look at it as kind of a brand new day, a fresh start, and this is, while there's some tradition, a new league. How can they start building the kind of buzz and PR that the Big Ten does? Because I'm not trying to knock some of their football or athletic brands, but some of them, are not comparable to some of the teams that the Big 12 has, and a lot of that is, to me, just good PR on their part. How can the Big 12 get at least close to that in its new arrangement?
Yeah, it's a great question. Great question, Paul. And that is actually in process. And it started, last year when we, added the four. And let me be clear, what has started is the planning for it, and how do we create value? How do we communicate value? How do we create excitement and a buzz regarding the quote unquote new Big 12? And so that's been something that the Big 12 has worked very hard at, and it's continuing to work on. And then with the new commissioner, with Commissioner Yormark and his background, right? He's got a vested interest, obviously, because he's commissioner, but also because of his past experiences. And so I think there's now a little bit of a pause in saying, all right, what we've done to date to prepare. Again, you haven't seen anything publicly, but what we've done to date to prepare. Are there any changes? Are there any tweaks for it? What I will tell you, I think with those institutions, two institutions leaving at some point in time, and the four new ones coming in, I think the four new ones coming in, absolutely make up for the two that are leaving. And you think about their brands and certainly, thinking about their entire athletics program, all four really, really solid. But then when you start to really think about, football and where those four institutions have been and where they're projected to be still, and men's basketball and women's basketball, I think we're in a really, really good place. And Paul, yes, we need to do a great job telling that story, and I think we will here in the near future.
Mac, $42.6 million is what was distributed based on what Bob Bowlesby said back at Big 12 Media Days. There's always the discussion about who would lose what because of Texas OU, or now with the Pac-12 with USC and UCLA. Do you feel confident that when all is said and done and the new deal is made, whatever and whoever's a part of it with the Big 12, that 42.6 would be the lowest ceiling?
Yeah, it's the first thing that came to my mind is, first of all, and I think this, right? I've never heard a head coach get up and say, "Hey, I just signed a really bad recruiting class."
Yes,
right.
Yes.
So my answer is yes, but genuinely, I think there's, because we've been forced, to some degree to look and really evaluate, our league over the last 9 months. And as we, think about potential, even, additional changes, obviously started by USC and UCLA, lately. But, so we've really had to kind of look deep, within and begin to project and think about future. And I would just say it's really positive. I think the Big 12 has a really strong path, regardless of whether we add teams or not add teams. If we just stay at the 12 once UT and Oklahoma, I think we have a really, really strong path to remain, in that third spot when you think about revenue distribution. It's been, Big Ten, SEC, Big Ten, right? And then we've been in a solid third place with some good room over both the ACC and the Pac-12. And I feel really good about that continuing, that trend continuing. And I think there's a pathway for us to maybe even do better than just saying right at third that we can begin to nip on the heels of those two other conferences. But obviously there's a lot of fluidity. The market conditions change. They potentially changed last night if ESPN is not part of the Big Ten. So they're always changing, and so it is a little bit hard to predict. But I would just tell you, when you look at the data, the science, and then you think about the art of it as well. We've got a great future.
Is it possible, if you don't do that, if you don't start to just be what would be a distant third, based on the projections of what we hear about the Big Ten and the SEC, is it possible for everyone to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, even though right now you beat some of these schools with bigger budgets, bigger revenue, bigger stadiums, bigger alums straight up? Could you do that over the long haul?
Can Baylor do it over the long haul? Absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't have signed a 10-year deal. This. I'm as competitive as anybody you're going to meet. I hate losing, love to win, all of that. I wouldn't have stayed here and agreed to stay here for 10 years if I didn't think that there was going to be a way that Baylor athletics continues to be nationally relevant. So, simple answer, yes.
Mac Rose, Director of Athletics at Baylor, with the Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Mac, one of the concerns that's come up with conference expansion is outside the football realm, in that it's in the college basketball tournament, as mid-major teams are a little worried that automatic qualifiers might go away. I know the Florida Gulf Coast Athletic Director mentioned something about it this week, that's a concern of his. Do you think that there's enough support within the leagues that aren't expanding at an exponential rate to make sure that the NCAA basketball tournament, which is one of the best showcases of college athletics that there is, if not the best, remains largely the same and untouched?
I do. We talk about some of the things that are fundamental to college sports, and at the top of the list, along with football, Saturdays is the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and it's special for a lot of different reasons, and we can spend an hour talking about that, but it's the inclusivity of the tournament. It's giving schools that maybe have less resources. Think about last year, St. Peter's, right? Giving them the opportunity and the platform to compete with some of the more well-resourced schools. I think that continues. That doesn't mean that there won't be some tweaks and or changes, but I think fundamentally there will still be what I'm going to call access for those schools and for, again, conferences that aren't as well resourced.
Mac, I was at a couple of those practices that are for the windows, and then, of course, post-practice media sessions. The construction around the Simpson Hires building near the indoor practice facility, it seems like it's just part of the arms race of college facilities and whatever else. So give me an idea what's going on.
Yeah, so right now we're just doing some preliminary work, and this has been public. The Board of Regents has approved about $10 million now to date in terms of work that we're doing and prepping for when we can really get after it, meaning the football operations center. And so we obviously got to get through this season, but on the let me get my directions right, on the south side of the practice fields and adjacent to the Simpson Center, we're getting ready to put in a retaining wall and are going to fill that with obviously fill it with dirt, soil, and extend the grass fields south a little bit, and that's part of putting together what we are calling a football complex that will consist of the 2 practice fields, the indoor, which our intent at this point in time is to extend it by 20 yards so that we have a full 100 yards under a roof with walls, and then also building the development center right up against the river. So this is just, again, officially the start of all of that. Obviously excited. We still have some approval processes to go through. Again, up to this point in time, the $10 million has been approved, but we'll continue to work and hopefully here in the coming months have an approval for the entire project, and then really get after it once the football season ends.
If you were to take what you do on an everyday basis on average, with all that's out there now, from the fact that you're running an athletic department to what has happened in the last couple of years with NIL, transfer portal, and now whatever is the future with realignment, how would that piece of what would be the biggest pieces in that pizza for you?
Man, that's a really good question. And, I probably have to sit and take a little bit of time. So, this is probably, my answer is in pencil and not in ink. But, certainly the conference, the future of the conference, and there's several components to that, including membership, but also other things. When you think about the football schedule, when you think about the public relations campaign, Paul, which you asked about, and I appreciate you asking, and transformation committee, and what if anything is governed or regulated is a better word by the conference versus each institution. That's probably 33%, of my time right now, 40% of my time, maybe it's more than that, but, and then, probably another third of my time is really thinking about the next 5 years for Baylor athletics. And so we have our strategic initiatives. We've completed those. We've got some executive boards, some working groups. We have what I would call university athletic department challenges, a list of those, and we also have max priorities, and so it becomes a pretty comprehensive list, and we've got a lot to do, and we got a lot to get done over the next 5 years, and I'm really fired up and excited about how we can move that needle, and then probably the other 33% is so I'm now going 34, 33, and 33, so people know that I can. All right, so not 40% on the conference stuff, but I'm going to go 30, 34, 33, 33, and then the 33 stuff. Look, it's raising money. It's name, image, and likeness. It's again preparing champions for life. It's the day-to-day stuff. It's the budget. It's all of those things that you got to still be engaged with. And again, just another opportunity. So thank you for the opportunity to just mention our staff. And, we had a head coaches retreat. And we came out of that in probably the most prolific, and maybe I've already shared this, and if I have, I apologize for being repetitive, but it's not what we have. It's who we are, and continue to double down on that. And look, we got to have things, no doubt, but those things are there's not a lot of value to them if we don't have the right people, the right culture. And so again, that whole culture piece is certainly part of that 33%. So that gives you a bit of flavor.
Yeah, you can always just Chicago cut the pizza with a bunch of different squares, and they're all pretty equal except the corners as well. Does Dr. Livingstone, being now the board chair of the NCAA Board of Governors, the Transformational Committee, what she's done with the Big 12, what your role is being with the Big 12, how much does that help? Is that like that allows you to even be more a part of any decision-making at Baylor?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think, it gives us a platform to have influence. And look, I think, people are trusting that, right? The influence to be, what's best for the larger enterprise. And, certainly you're always going to look, personally how it impacts Baylor athletics. But, I think that, I think it's a testament for how Baylor University right now is viewed nationally, and that can change in a heartbeat, as we all know, and so we really got to really have to protect that. But these opportunities for Dr. Livingstone, the opportunities for me, whether it's right now with the conference stuff or it's a role now with new NCAA president. I mean, it's those opportunities are because of where Baylor athletics is right now, and it's a whole lot of we. It's everybody that has had a role in that. No one person bigger than the other, and we're all equal in this, and it includes certainly our student athletes and our staff, our coaches, our university administration, our board of regents, our fans, and the three of you, and I know Craig's not there. I mean, you're even a part of this, and so we're obviously we're in a good place, but we can still be in a better place, and that's the charge.
We appreciate that. I want to go back to what you said, and I know you got to go, that you would not have signed the 10-year contract extension had you not felt Baylor was going to have a seat at the table going forward, and that would be able to play with the big boys and play with them straight head up. Does that include the entire Big 12? You feel like that way as well when it comes to the future?
Yeah, I do. I think that the other 11 member institutions have that same mindset. I really do. And so, and I think that's, certainly, a part of the equation that equals, the optimism that I have personally. And I think that my colleagues, the other athletic directors, the president's chancellors, Brett, the Big 12 staff, I think that, that we're all committed to being that and doing that. So, and again, that's why the optimism.
Yeah, and I got a feeling based on listening to you that there have been times since UCLA, USC, and all that, oh my God, what's going to happen next? You've been through this before, that you've had some moments where you have been given information. No one's told me this, but I just get the feeling where you've been maybe in a consultation or you've been involved with somebody on the phone that understands media, the TV rights, which you do as well, where you might have gone, damn, that's pretty good news for us.
Yeah, I think that, I think there's been, yes, absolutely, as, you've been in the trenches over the last 4 to 6 weeks and all of the different conversations with different media members, with different athletic directors, presidents, consultants, TV media consultants. There's been a lot of positives, and there's been some challenge as well. And the hardest thing not to do is not to get on the roller coaster ride, and understand that there's both a short game. It's like the game of golf, right? The ones that win the majors, really good in the long game, and oh, by the way, really, really good in the short game.
Yeah.
And so there's a short and long game to all of this, and knowing and understanding it. But I would say that, at least from my lens, both the short and long game are pretty positive.
When does Brett Yormark visit Baylor?
A couple weeks from now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not happy, for the record, that somehow TCU was first on this. My colleague Jeremiah Donati probably promised him something. I'm not sure what, but I'm fine. Believe me.
All right. Hey, man, thanks, Mac. Appreciate your time. Mac Rose, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And we appreciate his access every week, whenever we can. On occasion, he might be at a Big 12 meeting or might be trying to take a vacation, and all hell breaks loose.
Well, I mean, I think he's probably afraid to take a vacation now.
Yeah, it's the worst thing that happens to him, because it has been back-to-back summers on his way out the door, and the big realignment earthquakes have hit. So, I want to respond to someone. Go ahead.
Anytime he tries to look, the men's basketball team wins a championship, and he's trying to relax and have fun with all that.
That's right.
And the women's basketball coach leaves.
Yeah, that's right.
So those are all these things.
That's another thing. Someone on the chat room, and we do appreciate all of you, and sometimes it might be what you're talking about has nothing to do with what we're doing on the show, and that's fine. It's like a heartbeat that just continues with us or not, and we appreciate all of you. But mention something about that, Mac was going to give that kind of answer about he couldn't talk about, why was he not confirming the Big 12? Because it's not official yet. He did talk around it, and he even mentioned that a couple of different times. He could only say so much, because that's the role he has to play. We can discuss it. We can say, what does ESPN not being a part of the Big Ten mean? What does NBC's involvement mean? We can discuss it and rehash it and digest it and whatever, but he has to be somewhat careful because of the official position he's in.
But we get, and just for people who don't know, we get about 95% of the answers we ask.
Yes, we do.
We do. I mean, and when we do, we've done interviews every week, or most every week, Smokey, you and I, on our shows, wherever we were, with whoever the Baylor AD was at the time. And in the time since Mac has been the AD, we have gotten maybe one. I can't talk about that right now because of this. We have never gotten legal jargon.
No.
We've never gotten that, which we did get before a little bit sometimes. And given what happened right after that, it's kind of understandable why that would have been the official position. But we don't get that. So we have a batting average, or I guess it would be Mac's batting average of answering questions, but is higher than we could expect with nearly anyone else in his position. So if there are answers he doesn't get, the way I look at it is, if you walked in a room expecting 10 cookies and there were 9 cookies, you'd be a little bummed, but you get 9 cookies. You're not, you're still full.
Yeah, and again, I understand the chat room, but it is, he has to almost talk in a different way, because an official relation, he did bring it up, and then use the examples if in fact it's true.
Hey, and we also know that there's a couple times where he wasn't going to say anything to us, and he said, damn the torpedoes.
I got to share this. I'm going to share this. So I've been told that there have been times during executive meetings, and they okay, now this just needs to keep right now. We need to keep this between us. We're not ready to release it or talk about it, and that's okay. And then he'll go down the hallway and do the interview with us, and we'll ask a question, or he will bring it up, and he will answer it straight up and go back to the executive meeting. And they're like, "What the hell? You just said we weren't." I couldn't lie to him, and so we appreciate Mac Rhodes. Okay, coming up next, Craig is at practice, so no off the radar today. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters, so he will be out until probably a little bit after 5 o'clock. There are no post-practice media interviews, so we will get him back here in a little bit. In the 5 o'clock hour, can we do this? Can we at 5 o'clock open up the lines? Can we do that today?
Yeah. I mean, are we going to do off the radar though?
I don't think we're going to do it at all. I think
okay.
If he comes back into off the radar, that's fine. But if in fact I'm talking about in 8 minutes or so, we haven't done that in a while. I'd like to do that, and everyone kind of give us, what do you think? And again, not yet. We'll do this at 5. And you're doing this on the chat room, in the text line, and whatever else. So what do you think? Yesterday evening's information that today has been some added to it about the Big Ten that will not include ESPN. What do you think does that mean? Who is the benefit of this? And if you're a Pac-12 fan, you're going to say most likely the Pac-12. If you're a Big 12 fan of a team or but really kind of just think through it. Because I don't know who the hell it benefits. It does have to benefit somebody, because now ESPN has a lot more money available, and also they have inventory to fill. It could be both. And by God, if that's the case, that's great. 254-339-1122 is the text line as well. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Here's Corum, and Corum, what a move! Corum, he needs a block. Corum down the sideline. Blake Corum, touchdown, Wolverines. 67 yards.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Craig is not yet back. Jack just came back. He was at the open window where you could get video, pictures, and much more. And I got to tell you, some of those things are just amazing. Not some of them, all of them are. And so we appreciate Jack doing that. And, of course, also Craig has been watching practice. He'll put up some things on Twitter, write a story tonight, and he'll be back in studio in a second.
Let me tell you something about Jack. Jack's very loyal. Today, I asked him to drag Grayson Grunhafer outside and you know, just beat him senseless because he was sitting in my chair when I got here. And that's, you know, that's par for the course, right?
Good for you, Jack. That's the way you got to have him
And Jack
back.
said, okay, good deal. Now, it didn't happen. We negotiated it out, but Grayson really did. I'll tell you, I didn't realize how OCD I am, but like I walked in the door, usually there's nobody in this chair, I get to set up, and Grayson just kind of sat here for a few minutes, and I was like,
kind of lingering.
Hey, you know, Bearcast is over.
Little turf. Hey,
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, this is the question for us. We'd love to get your feedback on this at 254-339-1122. Who benefits the most, in your opinion, from ESPN when it becomes official, which has been reported now by a lot? We've discussed it. Who benefits the most, in your opinion, from ESPN not being a part of the Big Ten television contract? Who, in your opinion? Could be maybe a team. Could be a program. Could be Notre Dame. It could be a conference, Big 12, Pac-12. It could be someone else. Who is it, in your opinion? 254-339-1122. Paul's got the lineup. Garrett's got the lines up, and we'd love to get your feedback from that.
You know, I think it's the other conferences right now that benefit from it because they've got to fill the inventory. So the Pac-12 and Big 12 will benefit from that. Now, let's see what happens, what ultimately does finish up with this and where it winds up. But there's going to be a lot of beneficiaries to this. And, but it does, like, for the Pac-12, like, even with their TV deal coming up and all that, like, there's a lot of questions we need answered. So if the Big Ten still wants to, expand in this television cycle, have they built that into this TV deal where those overall dollars are not going to come down if they say add Notre Dame and Stanford? If those are going to be there, what the floor of what they expected when they told all 16 of their members what they were going to get. Is it going to be worth it to all 16 of them to add 2 more members? We don't know that. The other thing I wonder is, even if they pause on it and there's unequal revenue sharing in the Pac-12, can the Pac-12 have a model that even though there might be unequal revenue sharing, the number is high enough to keep them away from the Big Ten, the ones who would want to leave? And I don't know that there would be. So, that raises another big question for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of it, and what looks like it's simple. Here's by the way from Tide Guy, ESPN saves their money and buys the playoffs.
The playoffs are going to have to go across multiple networks as well, and you don't think Fox is just going to sit there and let ESPN own the whole thing, but ESPN will now, look, and here's the other thing. They'll have exclusive deals with the ACC and the SEC, and probably more of a tilt from the Big 12 and Pac-12 because of the games that they'll have to fill. So they will have 4 of the Power 5 conferences under their window. It's just they won't have the Super 2 both there, and one of them they will not have at all. So that, they can still write a lot of the story.
Texas Buckeye 1953, Fox Sports benefits the most. From Jason Osborne, the Big Ten benefits the most. Money talks. But if ESPN would have stayed involved, then they might have been able to make more, because then they start to drive each other up by bidding against each other. From Congo, the Big Ten benefits the most. And then the fans. Flush Jackson said the fans do benefit the most as well. And, okay, that's from the chat room. There's much more to get to as well. Texas Buckeye is on. In fact, I think he's getting ready to try calling in the show. All right?
Okay, let's go to Jeff in Mexico. And, Jeff, I have to thank you. I got an email yesterday, and I think this is all you, buddy, that we are the number 74 sports podcast in Mexico right now.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, I'm trying to spread the word for you guys down here.
Thank you for doing that.
Go ahead.
Hey, I think a winner, unfortunately, with ESPN stepping out, I think it's kind of going to be a loss, because I think ESPN saves a lot of that money, and they just buy the playoffs. That gives them, $300 million to put in a bid for the playoffs.
It certainly does.
Might be on top of what else they were also going to do. Jeff, thanks for the call. Appreciate your time and call from Mexico. Also from the 217, if I had to choose one party, I think right now there's a lot of upside for the ACC. From Scotty B, in my opinion, the Big 12, because this shows the Pac-12 schools are not wanted by the SEC or the Big Ten. I never really heard that connection with the SEC anyway. I'm not sure if that's the case.
I don't know if that's the case.
From the 737, the Big Ten benefits the most. A multi-year deal with NBC opens media leverage to add Notre Dame at least sports fans, if not at all. All right.
Let's go to Diane in Grand Prairie. Diane, thanks for your call.
Hello. You want to know who benefits the most? We benefit the most, the listeners of 365 Sports Radio, because you guys give such excellent coverage, and you've provided us with the platform here that allows us to get great, excuse me, I've got another call coming in. It allows us to get great coverage from you guys with great guests that you've provided throughout this entire event for the last 2 years.
Diane, we appreciate you. You've been with us since day one when we opened this up, April of 2020, and we do appreciate you. You have been incredibly loyal, and we do hope that the guests we have, not all of them are some that people want to listen to, but we want to give you different sides of the story if we possibly can. So, Diane, thank you very much from Grand Prairie as well. Let's see here. ESPN can kick rocks. Let's see. On the text line, by the way, there's a couple of more of you on the text line. Joel, I think the Big 12, with the stability of remaining conferences, benefits, especially the trickle-down effect of Notre Dame joining the Big 10 if they do, and then the SEC matching that by plugging in the ACC. You're going to see some ACC programs perhaps open up to joining another conference and possibly the Big 12. Thanks for the text from Joel. Craig is back, by the way, from watching Baylor football practice. All right. Anything else, Paul?
Yeah. Let's go to. Hold on. The screening's not done yet. I believe it's Jeff in Idaho, but I've got to let the computer put him in the queue. So we'll have one more call here. Yeah. Look, I don't know. I mean, it could benefit the Big 12 immensely. It could benefit them laterally. And again, we not knowing what the Big Ten's final questions, but I don't know. Who it really does. So let's go to Brett. He's from Provo. Brett, thanks for your call.
Hey guys, I love watching your show. You guys, I'm a BYU fan, and it's been really fun to be featured so much with you guys.
Thank you.
What I was wondering is if you guys could ask, you guys have a lot of big TV industry people on there now, it seems like, with Bob Thompson. I was wondering if you could ask him sometime if the makeup of the markets makes a difference, right? So with the West Coast market, LA, are the people there that they're advertising to, yeah, it's a huge market, but do the USC fans, for example, have more money than a BYU fan or a Baylor fan or anything like that. I was just wondering if because that would kind of make sense then why that market is so valuable. But that was all.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the call.
I think, just generally that is kind of what people go for is who watches and what market, what alumni are. The Ivy League has a really big streaming deal, which you would think is more for ESPN Plus because of who they can sell the advertising to. And so that's a big part of it, I think, but some of it's just about volume, and the Big Ten has huge alumni. Like Ohio State, I think has am I right, Craig? They're like the biggest alumni base in the world. The Ohio State, I think so.
I have no idea.
Ohio State's got one of the biggest alumni bases in the world. So them alone in the Big Ten makes them attractive to television advertising because you have a ton of alumni that all over the place. So Michigan has a huge alumni base. Penn State has a big alumni base. They have huge.
Well, that's the thing and now they have these markets, and it's not. And I had somebody bring this up. He goes, "You guys always bring up Rutgers and New York or whatever. It's only because it's an analogy or an example, but I mean there is a massive amount of alumni from the various schools within the Big Ten all over the country, and there are certain pockets that are even larger." It just allows them to be into now L.A., Chicago, New York. That's the trifecta. That's what you want. Mm-hmm. And that's why also is the line still open? Because I'm hearing a clip.
Go ahead and
talk that down, Garrett. Okay, thank you very much. From Jim.
But it sounds like a question for Bob because that's kind of who he's referring to, who would actually have an answer to that.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that sizes matter. They typically do, right? Not always, but most of the time, and especially when you're talking TV markets. But not being an exec, because like you can say LA's got an immense amount of people, but how do you ensure that that's actually a group of people watching the games? So what data goes into that? Where the market size also says that they're actually in that market watching college football. Because if it's a market size but nobody's watching it, who gives a damn? Like that's the whole point is looking at the TV rating after the broadcast is over with. But I know for some elements of this, it's like how many homes can you get into? So I wish it was just black and white. Like it would be a lot simpler if it's just like, yes, this matters and that doesn't. But as we saw from the very beginning of expansion, one day we had somebody saying, oh, well, this doesn't matter. And then the next day it was, well, no, that matters a lot. This doesn't matter. And then the next day it was, neither of those matter. It's about market. And then, and it just kept going and going. And I don't think we ever really got an answer on an order of importance when it came to some of those outside, topics, I guess, or outside values and whatnot came with that.
All right, a couple more of you on this from MH5 who benefits their competitors. Less competition means better price for the content. From Jacob, why did the departure of USC and UCLA enhance the value of market size when expanding conferences?
Well, it's Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's LA. And no matter what, no matter what the numbers might be with USC and UCLA.
Go anywhere in Los Angeles and try to feel like you're alone. I mean, it's hard. A lot of people there.
From Texas Buckeye, you call. Okay, thank you very much for that. And someone actually said this, well, maybe ESPN, what happens if they just don't use the money that they were going to spend on the Big Ten had they gotten a piece of the pie?
What's the question y'all been asking here?
The bottom line, who benefits the most from if, in fact, when it becomes official that ESPN is out of the Big Ten?
I need, like I said earlier before I left, I need some more details on this Big Ten deal. I need to know, because it's easy to say, oh, the Pac-12 benefits. Well, do they? If Oregon and Washington and Stanford leave still? Did they really benefit? No, they're probably going to die. I mean, unless there's a merger of some sort. Did the Big 12 win? Because, ESPN is going to be free, and you would think there'd be some Big 12 programming on there. Maybe, but we don't really know just yet. I mean, what if somebody's got a surprise up their sleeve and all of a sudden you have some, now the Big 12's got the buyout, and that's their saving grace, is that $80 million to get out of the conference. That's locked in for a little while longer. Mm-hmm. That's really what prevents, I think, potentially somebody going after a school in the Big 12. But that's a good question. I mean, the Big 10's the overall benefactor of no matter what area we're looking at. But outside of that, I think it's too soon to say other than the Big Ten because for both the Pac, I have unanswered questions. And for the Big 12, I need to see what happens with the Big Ten deal and then what that means for the Pac. And then we'll talk about where the Big 12 is. But there's just too many things that could happen.
Like the simplest answer was the one Bob Thompson said, is it's probably good because there's 144 games that they've lost that they've got to fill.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. You've got that you have to fill. So it would stand to reason that they're not going to try to reinvent the wheel to get those games, that you just kind of go ahead. But does it really benefit them when – maybe the competition would not, like, how much does it benefit the Big 12 and the Pac-12 if the overall money they know, like, well, this is what they offered this. We know this is what everybody has left. ESPN may not have to give them that much money. They might just to take what they get. So,
do you think both the Big 12 and Pac-12 can somehow benefit if ESPN now is out of the Big 10?
Well, yeah. I mean, somehow,
I get the feeling that, again, we don't quite know that is there enough to spread around.
I don't know that.
Makes
but I mean,
both of them.
There's probably a pathway for them to benefit.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to think of what that would be. But if you're not on ESPN, you're not on any of the networks connected, most likely. So that eliminates a pretty big chunk of
ABC and ESPN.
Yeah. Disney.
Yeah.
You're out of Disney. Yeah. You're not on Disney Plus if you're not on ESPN or ABC.
Yeah.
So that would be like you're wiping out 3 different channels right there. No, you're wiping out ESPN, ESPN2, whatever the hell other ESPN there is out there, ESPN Plus, Hulu, ABC, Hulu, Disney Plus. That's kind of a lot. That's a lot of territory right there.
But the Pac-12 and the Big 12 would benefit because there's inventory there, but they'd have to be involved with ESPN.
They have to be, yeah.
Texas Buckeye, how about the winner being Fox Sports?
Maybe. I mean,
someone said it might be college football fans.
I don't think it's the fans, though. I keep hearing that. I don't know. I think it is the fans if you are content sitting at home watching games on TV. But if you're somebody who's worried about attendance issues, then I don't think this is very good news at all. I don't think we're in a position where people are going to games more than they were. I think it's less. And I think with, Michigan traveling to Los Angeles, at least once a year probably, or on occasion, you're going to have to, maybe it's just me who's broke as a joke most of the time. I can't sit here and in my head start swinging around what games I'm going to go to across the country. But for Big Ten alums, I'm sure you've already planned out, or OU and Texas alums for the SEC trips. Hey, I'm going to go down to Ole Miss. I'm going to go to Athens. I'm going to go to here and here. But for the average Joe, good luck getting me to 10 games if one of them means I got to go to Los Angeles and one of them means, you know what I'm saying? I don't think they're really driving more people to the ballpark. I think the TV's going to have more people sitting at home.
Yeah, look, it's not going to be – there was a year when I was in college where –
So the fans do win in that regard, but in that way they win.
Of the 12 games, I think 10 of them were drivable. Or, at home or –
at Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State. 10 of them were drivable back then. And so if you think about a college student, it's certainly not good for the actual students. If you're a Michigan student and you want to go to the USC game –
Oh, I think they would figure out a way.
They'll get them there,
But if it's, the other way around, what if you're a USC or UCLA fan and you're not playing Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, or Wisconsin?
Oh, yeah. You're going to go to Rutgers? Probably not.
Well, here we go with the Rutgers thing. We're
Indiana, wherever, yeah.
No, I'm just saying that's just far.
No. Monty Pritchett, we won't know the final verdict regarding fans of college sports winning or not, severely losing until after 2026, which is when the college football playoff takes its next roll. We have one more, Paul?
Yeah. One more call. Tyler in Cincinnati, thanks for your call.
Guys, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for the call.
Good. So I just wanted to say real quick, I started listening to you guys last year when the Big 12 was expanding, and my God, look where we're at now, huh?
Yes.
Real quick, I just now got to listen to you guys, so I'm a little late to the party. So I just wanted to see what your guys' take was. So, if the Big Ten deal is involving let's say it's a bunch of different networks where it's Fox Sports has the majority of Big Ten, and then the rest of it is split between NBC and CBS. Do you think that NBC part of it is probably a little thing to sweeten a deal with Notre Dame to kind of entice them to coming to the Big Ten? Because it'd be more money for Notre Dame if they join the conference versus them flying solo. And I know you guys were probably earlier talking about how I think one of you guys were talking about how if Notre Dame joined the ACC, they'd be the bigger dog. But that might appease their ego. But do you think it'd be an easier transition if the Big Ten lands NBC as part of their deal?
I think that's certainly in maybe the Big Ten hopes to get Notre Dame. And Tyler, thanks for your call. I think that's certainly in the thinking. The only thinking you have to worry about, though, or wonder about is Notre Dame's. Is, when is the money going to be so huge that they join a conference, or the playoff structure going to be such that they have to join a league? Because otherwise it's not going to happen. Because right now they're their own. Jack Swarbrick has as much power as a conference commissioner, and he is in charge of one school.
Yeah. From Tony Altamar, who always gives us a kind of a different look not a different look, but he gives us the perspective from the West Coast. I don't always agree with Tony, but he does feed some great information on the games going from USC, UCLA, elsewhere to the Big Ten. Remember now, they will only play 4 games a year at a Big Ten program. But will they be guaranteed, and can you do this with the schedule constantly churning of who plays whom? Can you guarantee that it's always going to have at least Ohio State or Michigan, or maybe Penn State as a part of what you do at least one of those road games?
Yeah.
That and I don't know if you can. If it's Illinois, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Iowa, with all due respect, that gets you fired up if you're USC or UCLA?
I don't know. I mean, they've got big alumni bases, but yeah, it was probably not. But then again, it depends on how good Iowa is, right?
And they're always pretty steady. Yeah. All right.
I do think, going back to the callers deal, I do think there's probably some idea in mind, or at least the way it was set up could easily allow them to just kind of walk on in and be a member right from the get-go, but I don't think it necessarily says for sure that, that's impending, that's coming down the pipeline. Notre Dame, NBC, the Big Ten, I don't think that right at this moment. I mean, again, I'm just like you, just reading the tea leaves and all that. I don't think that, but I do think that it's nice and cozy to have that sort of set up already. If there is an opportunity to make that move or a desire to make that move on their part, it makes it a lot less seamless than if you had network wars going on between the Big Ten and who they were under versus who Notre Dame was under. But that having that same umbrella in some way, I do think makes it easier if you're going to go that route.
All right, we've mentioned Notre Dame a few times. Garrett, do you have the tweet from our good friend Tim Fitzgerald? Yeah, here we go. I'm guessing NBC is adding Big Ten football in the noon Eastern window to lead into Notre Dame afternoons, thus allowing the Irish to remain independent. But if Notre Dame is going to the ACC, realignment may be taking an unexpected turn, and who knows, that might eventually include the Big 12's loss of West Virginia. Just a thought.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, my conspiracy theory is Notre Dame to the ACC. That's my, black helicopters and, there's
versus staying independent.
Yeah, I mean, if they had to join a conference, I would think they would join the Big Ten first. But if they have to join a conference, there is an argument, like I said earlier, to be made that they would be kind of the biggest dog in the ACC and able to still kind of have the best of both worlds. Now, not that there are, little puppies all around them, but they would have a good balance of big schools with them that would want the same things, like Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina would all direct that league. But I still think it's Big Ten or bust. Also, I don't think NBC is getting the Big Ten at noon. I think NBC is getting the Big Ten in prime time that will lead up to Notre Dame game, and they might be able to flip some games to noon if Notre Dame is in prime time. For example, I don't think the Ohio State game is on NBC, but if it was, then that game would obviously be in prime time, or maybe.
From Tony, and I did see the Nicole Arbach, that tweet from Tim is the exact opposite of what Nicole Arbach has been reporting all day. And we mentioned her earlier in the show that yesterday she put out a tweet that eventually was, well, what if, and it happened. And then she's also put out, what if, and perhaps that's the next thing that happens. There's a couple of text line with the new TV deal. Who will be the first SEC school to bolt for the Big Ten?
None of them.
None.
They're
going to get a reworked TV deal at some point.
They've got an equally sweet deal.
601, I say the Big 12, potentially the ACC benefit more. Big 12 can get a better deal for them. The ACC can possibly as well, if they or any member schools challenge the current deal, renegotiate for more. PAC does not benefit, in my opinion, as the door is now open to either ESPN overpaying for the PAC or the PAC getting completely unequal revenue sharing. That's from the 601.
Well, the overpaying would be good news for the Pac-12.
No, the overpaying. But here's the thing. I don't know why they would overpay.
Why would you, though?
Because
yeah,
you're bidding against yourself, basically.
And we know that, like, they don't have, it's not like the Big Ten where they've got network after network after network lined up. I mean, that's the Big Ten and the SEC, then the ACC probably to a further extent. We have no idea what the interest in the Big 12 is. Although I'm sure, like in certain circles, you can probably gauge, some of what that early talk is. But yeah, I mean, there's just no sign out there that the Pac-12's got others banging down their door to. Yeah, that's
407 UCF realist. Assuming ESPN has no Big Ten games, what programming holes time slots does it need to fill, or is it just all SEC and ACC?
Well, they've got the late night time slot. We know that. That's the Pac-12's big window right there.
I don't think you can. I mean, honestly, I don't think you can just fill it all.
Honestly, I can't put all of those.
I don't know off the top of my head every single
kickoffs,
freaking time slot.
Yeah, and again, you have so many multiple layers of an outlet of ESPN, the different layers, and the same thing, ESPN, ABC.
Well, bye weeks, games that you would kick to streaming, stuff like that. You're not going to put, for example, if you just want to save money. And just put ACC games in those slots and hope it works out for you, you're going to have a game that is two of the bottom-rung teams in the ACC at 11 o'clock all the time, or an ACC team versus an FCS opponent at 11 o'clock, or an SEC team versus an FCS opponent in those windows, which you are intentionally – you have those games so you can kick them to streaming so people have to pay you $9.99 a month to watch them. So – yeah, you're not really saving any money by doing that. You're probably costing yourself money because now you're telling people the subscription service you've been pushing for years that they have to have, you don't need it anymore. You can save that extra $10 a month and just watch it on TV. So no, they're not going to do that because those are the games you're also, going to see on the app.
Go ahead.
And again, this deal with the Pac, what are you signing up for?
Yeah.
Like, who's in the conference, and how long are they in the conference, and how assured are you that they're in the conference? I mean, now, granted, if you've got deals you can swing where there's some ACC merger in the works or something along those lines, then that would make some sense. But if it's just a straight up, okay, this is the new Pac-12 minus the LA schools, what are we worth? Okay, you're worth this much, and really your late night window is just tremendous. Clearly that's your bread and butter. We need you for that. Who's on board? Okay, everybody's on board? Okay, cool. Let's sign this grant of rights. Everybody going to sign this grant of rights? Oregon, you going to sign this grant of rights? Washington, you going to sign this grant of rights? Or do you think that, I don't know, maybe in 2024, 5, 6, 7, 8, that, somebody comes knocking on the door? And so if you'll remember, I asked Mac Rhodes about 3 weeks ago, and I haven't heard his interview today because I was out there sweating on the practice fields, but I asked him about grant of rights and the contracts that schools are signing coming up with these new TV deals and kind of how all that works. And I asked him, could you foresee a scenario where, just in theory, a conference would be forced into basically allowing their schools to sign shorter grant of rights because the knowledge that nobody wants to be locked down for 20 years if they don't have an SEC type of a deal where they're never going to want to leave. But 2-year deal? Like, I mean, how do you do that? Where's the stability is what I'm asking.
And the playoff expansion also, like, again, I'm not going to sign a grant of rights that's going to get me too deep into the new playoff era. If, say it does happen, the 12 to 16 teams, the way we heard it, automatic qualifiers, not really, top 5 highest ranked, your 6 highest ranked conference teams after that at large bids, blah, blah, blah. So if that happens, I'm going to make I'm going to make sure I'm in the best place to get in the playoff. So if I know that the SEC and Big Ten have a corner on those markets and the Big Ten wants me, I'm going to want to be able to get there quickly, even if the playoff expands. So even if it is 16 teams and I have a better shot of getting in no matter what conference I'm in, just by the numbers, if the Big Ten proves that they have a corner on it that I don't have and I could join them because they want me, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I don't want a long grant of rights.
And you're making way more money.
Yeah.
Way more money.
Roger Dodger, the deal is NBC gets the primetime slot, and Tony was saying that's what I was trying to explain. It appears to be pretty solid now, and we appreciate that. ESPN's not going to overpay the Pac-12 to fill what would be a 9 a.m. time slot for West Coast teams. Did you all ever think you would have people in the middle? Oh, J.A. from Dubai is watching.
What's up, J.A.?
J.A. in Dubai watching 365 Sports. We appreciate that. Did you ever think you would have people in the Mideast listening to the show? We have all been extremely thrilled, blown away, excited, and thank you for all the various places that listen and watch us. And the first time, I think it was Jeff, right? Was it Jeff who contacted us outside the United States? He was in Mexico.
Did you ever think USC and UCLA would join the Big Ten?
Yeah.
No. Did you think OU and Texas would join the SEC? Actually, yeah. If you would have told me there's a possibility, then yeah. I mean, I think everybody in the Big 12 over the years had feelings like there was no end game, really, where everything just stayed status quo. And I'm not trying to make the Pac-12 out to be that, but again, before I run any victory lap, the one thing, if like the Big 12 was in the Pac-12's decision, I'd be saying the same thing because they're up next and they need to figure out what they're going to do. But I have questions, man. I need to see the rest of this Big Ten deal. I need to know who's on board, on what networks and what time slots, and then where does that leave everything else? Because until that's answered, we know that the late window game is a plus for the Pac-12. Okay, we've established that. But outside of that, what slots are there? What networks are there? And we kind of have an idea on the networks to an extent, but like for all we know, they're going to announce Peacock. Let's throw Apple on there. Okay, well then there's Apple. Okay, then what is it? You know what I'm saying? So we know enough to know like, hey, the Big Ten is getting rich and paid, and they're going to be around till we're all cockroaches basically. But outside of that, I don't think we really for the others got a ton cleared up in terms of for the Big 12 and the Pac-12 their long-term stability and their survival, so to speak.
Jamie Thornton, do you go if you only want some Pac schools for late night games, can ESPN not just have Big 12 and add those schools? Saves ESPN money by only bidding on what is one Power 5 conference TV deal.
Well,
that is an option.
Yeah, the ESPN and the other networks could honestly tell the Big 12 and Pac-12, we kind of like this idea of the two of you separate, but we like the idea of these two things together based on some of these brands coming over better when it comes to our TV market. So would we rather see, maybe BYU and Utah be a conference game and so that we can pump up and put that in prime time? Would we like to see Oregon play Houston? I mean, that's what they're going to do. We want a coast-to-coast thing in our so that how they might stir that pot there. But
wouldn't you think though that would have meant that the Pac and Brett Yormark would have continued conversations? I mean, those lasted for like 30 seconds and they were over.
If that long.
So I agree with you. I think everybody agrees. I think John Wilner agrees. I think John Canzano agrees. I think Heartland Sport, I think everybody involved with either conference to any extent agrees that, they're like nobody believes they're going to both be standing individually 20 years from now. Like if you had to bet your bank on that, your retirement on that, would you bet that?
No,
absolutely not. That'd be a stupid bet. But, there is enough uncertainty that, both of them can survive right now in this immediate future. But I think, everybody's pointed to that of like, it makes way more sense for them to just go ahead and align and you go coast to coast and you have these matchups. But clearly, whenever that got talked about, there was an issue, whether that be like who's included and who's not, or another issue of some sort, because otherwise they'd still be talking about that because that would be better for both. But clearly it's not. For some reason it's not. And maybe after this is all said and done, and we talk to Brett Yormark or Mac Rhodes, they can explain to us why that wasn't. Maybe it's too many teams. Maybe it's lowering even if it makes sense to everybody comes together, that doesn't mean that their per school value doesn't go down ultimately, because all of a sudden you've got, 20-something teams?
But the thing is, there's no way some of those schools in the Pac-12 will ever want to be in the same room.
Well, and there's that.
Schools in the
Big that's 12. The biggest thing.
Yeah.
But
and that's an ego thing, or just a way that people feel.
Yeah, that's a non-starter. But I'm just saying, if they could get past that and realize, and really that's the Pac-12 having to get past that, but they won't. But let's say that they did because some in the Pac-12, Cal, for example, if they could get over that because they realize, hey, it's either do this or die. Then maybe you'd come together. But again, if there was value in that and there was money in that and there was interest in that, then I think we'd still be hearing about Kleofkoff and Yormark having conversations. So unless they're doing it behind the scenes and we don't know, then there's obviously not as much value as we think in that.
Super Chat, Hayden Maxwell. Craig, is the Big 12 dead on getting a good TV deal with the new Big 10 deal?
I don't think so, no. I think, again, I just need to see more because I need to see if the Big 10 is staying pat and if Notre Dame's staying pat. And, if that just stays the way that it is and the SEC stays pat and the whole world just stays the same, obviously that's going to, open some doors, pull some levers or whatever. But if all of a sudden the Big Ten comes out and we're ready to announce our TV deal, and guess what, guys? We'd like to introduce our new members, Notre Dame and Stanford. And, okay, well then, boom, game on. Okay, Pac-12's dead. Let's go grab, and then what does that do? And then what does that value change? And so, no, I don't think for 1 second. And here's the other thing, too. It's so funny how all of a sudden when you start talking about, the Big 12, there's not going to be any money left. The money's going to run out? When has that ever happened in TV negotiations?
I mentioned that if you guys remember.
Yeah,
it's never going to go dry.
Live sports is king, and live sports. We want live sports. We want live sports. We want live sports. So all of a sudden there's this whole league of college football that carries half the country, even if the audiences aren't 10 million a game, and you're telling me that the networks just be like, no, we'd rather run home improvement reruns. Hell no, they're going to run Baylor versus Oklahoma State for 8 million viewers on a December Saturday.
For a championship.
Yes. Or 1 million for whatever other version in October.
My old co-host Vince Erickson back in the day used to say this about sports when he was, fighting to get more than 4 minutes in the block. Which Smokey from being in TV sports.
Probably now 2.5.
Yeah. So when he was fighting that as it started to wean down. News is what happened yesterday. Weather is what happens tomorrow. But sports is important enough to cover live. And that is how TV networks view it, because if you look at the TV ratings, the best things are sports. The ones that you can guarantee. I've got butts and couches in their houses watching this game. That is sports. It's not anymore, primetime dramas or comedies. They don't do that because you can watch them anytime you want without commercials if you pay for it.
When you go to an airport, if you're in an airport and you're flying out and you've got a little bit of a time to have a beer, wings, whatever, what are the TVs on usually in the sports bars?
Well, if I had my way, Days of Our Lives, Steve Harvey show. No,
I know
it's on sports.
The airports have a deal with the news networks, whatever. I think it's CNN or MA. But if you look at if you look at where everyone, they're all watching, not just during the NCAA tournament or a Saturday or Sunday during football season. There is something that is related to watching sports live.
And I understand that, this is also difference of markets. We are talking about, Ohio State and Michigan and their audiences versus, some obviously smaller schools with smaller audiences. But, at some point in time, how about build up a brand? How about, I said this, if you got an opportunity to get the Pac-12 or the Big 12, whoever does, don't treat them like second-class citizens. Now, you're going to pay them differently. You're not going to pay them $1.5 billion like you are the Big 10, but, by treating it differently and treating it like it doesn't add up, then what kind of audience are you trying to attract?
You could absolutely will see a difference, you would think, in how ESPN and some of the talking heads or the network, how they treat now the Big Ten, or how they treat maybe conferences that they've always just thought were there, once that is the one they have to promote.
But to answer that question, I think when you talk about the Big Ten, and I know that it's its own unique beast, and so is the SEC, but you talk about them spanning over, 3 networks, a couple streaming services. I mean, clearly there's demand, and I don't think that that's just demand for the Big Ten. I think a lot of it is that because of the top brands that they do have, and same thing with the SEC, but I also think, live sports, clearly there's a desire for it. And, the more we see some of these services that aren't doing as well or whatever with their in-house TV shows, what's one thing you can guarantee pretty much always is going to bring in some kind of audience? It's, for the most part, sports, at least when we're talking college football. And that might not always be 1 million people, but on occasion it might be 8 million. And, I think that the Big 12 will be fine. I will say this. My concern is they're not going to be anywhere close to the Big 10 or the SEC. No one is. So what does that mean in the long run?
Well, we asked Mac Rhodes that. I'll let you go back and transcribe what he said.
And so what does that mean? Outside of that, I don't yeah, I don't have any doubts that they'll score a TV deal, and it'll be a nice TV deal. And I think for a lot of those schools, it'll probably be, in some cases for the new ones, certainly more money than they've been making. Mm-hmm. And for the other ones, enough to be able to manage.
We have to break. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, on Tuesdays, many things that he'll discuss, including he loves talking about college sports as well. And, of course, what happens this week or is happening this week with the NFL. Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports. All right. What do I got?
Woodway.
Oh, the city of Woodway. Thank you, because we had to dodge around a little bit. The city of Woodway. They told me the other day, by the way, that they're extending their sponsorship with us into another year. We appreciate them so much for being a part of what we do here on 365 Sports. Go to discoverwoodway.com and find out about what do they do. One, they have amazing venues, including the Arboretum. The Carling Bright Arboretum, where you can host business meetings, fundraisers, weddings, rehearsal dinners. I have been there for almost all of that. Honestly, it's just a beautiful facility with huge, massive glass windows that overlook the tremendous landscape that they have. And I think what the number was is seat like 360 or 80 people, if that's the event you have. So they are the one where you should, if you have a major event you want to get, it could be a business meeting. Also, they have 7 hotels in Woodway. If you can't find one when you're coming to Waco for a game or for the silos or whatever it might be. And then also coming up as well, they have different things that are happening coming up this fall, including the one that is concerts on the Arboretum. They have September the 9th, concerts at Arboretum featuring Jacko Pierce, 6 to 9:30. Go to discoverwoodway.com for more information on that. And eventually there's the Cops and Kids Halloween drive-thru they do every year in late October. Discoverwoodway.com.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, Sikkim 365 Radio, and also 365 Sports. John, thank you, sir, for your time. And so Paul was just letting me know, I saw the note, but Roger Goodell, owners, you need to act right. What does that mean?
That means don't tank. That means don't try to hire people from other teams who are under contract. Don't sexually harass any of your employees.
Yeah, you would feel like some of this should go unsaid, but apparently now it doesn't have to, John. But I mean, is this just a public thing? Because they're not going to do anything about the Commanders, right? And they've already punished the Dolphins. So what happens then?
Oh, they'll do something to the Commanders and Daniel Snyder at some point, and they still have to worry about the investigation of Mark Davis. Don't know if they're going to investigate the Cowboys over the Rich Dalrymple controversy, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. The NFL is investigating. Chargers have a sibling trying to force the other siblings to sell the franchise. There's a lot of things going on around the NFL. It's almost like they need to hire more investigators.
Yeah, no doubt. John, because it's become customary at this point till it won't be needed any longer, what's the latest on Deshaun Watson?
Nothing. Goodell talked about today, same thing everybody's been talking about. He was predatory behavior and egregious behavior, and so they're waiting on Peter Harvey, the former New Jersey Attorney General, who helped formulate the new conduct policy, worked on Zeke Elliott and a couple other of the cases for the league, waiting for him to see if he's going to give them 10, if he's going to give them 12, or is he going to give them a season.
All right, so I saw is it Roquan Smith, the linebacker for the Bears, hell of a player, a tremendous player, and now he doesn't feel he's valued. Is this, as you always say, all about the money?
It's always about the money. And I'll bet you when he gets paid, he'll believe he's valued. And I don't blame him. He's a really good player, and he sees wide receivers squawk to get paid, and they get traded, and they get astronomical amounts of money. So I don't blame him or players at any other position trying to get what they believe they're worth. The owners have the money. There's a salary cap in place, of course, but as the Rams showed in the offseason, you can get your best players re-signed if you really indeed want to.
Yeah, John, some teams think the salary cap is very real, like the Cowboys seem to, and then some teams don't regard it at all, like Les Snead and the Rams. And
well, Paul, excuse me, you got to, when the new league year starts in the middle of March, that's when you have to be under it. You can be over it as much as you want to be over it, but then you got to slice and dice and cut to get under it. So teams that have re-signed players, like you mentioned, the Rams GM Les Snead, at some point they're going to have to pay the piper. It's just not going to be this season when they're trying to win back-to-back Super Bowls for the first time since the Patriots after the 03 and 04 season.
John, what do you when you look at teams like the Cowboys, who've been 26 years, and they have an offseason, I think I might have asked you this before, where a lot of the moves they make don't make sense, at least, especially for the return they got, and now they didn't do anything about kicker, and they're bringing in a guy who kicked for them 3 years ago and was awful. When you look at Jerry Jones, do you ever say, like, what do you do? Like, what is he doing?
I think people say that about Jerry Jones all the time. Now, he's got a good personnel guy, Will McClay, who's been offered several general managers jobs, and he stayed there to work with the Jones family. But how a team can not solidify that position is amazing, because so many games are settled by 3 or fewer points. And when the Cowboys are trying to become the first NFC East champion to repeat since Andy Reid won 4 with Philadelphia, you know they're going to play some close games, and you know at some point they're going to regret not having that position solidified. There's nothing worse than having a revolving door for kickers during regular season. And I think the Cowboys are going to win the division. I think they're going to win it because they clearly have the best quarterback and they have the best offense. And it's not even close. Jalen Hurts, they got a good running game, and Hurts is trying to take the next step in his development. But Dak Prescott is the premier quarterback in that division. And when I'm trying to pick teams that are going to win their division, most of the times I'll go with the best quarterback.
John, I saw the Texans release their depth chart. Jalen Petrie listed as a starter. I don't know if that's a huge surprise, but are you continuing to hear good things about the Baylor rookie?
Always. He's been, when Lovie Smith slipped last week and said he's a starter, I tweeted, hey, that's a no-brainer. I've been writing that since the draft. Of course he's going to be a starter. Right now they have 4 new starters in their secondary. Derek Stingley, first-round pick. At corner, Jalen Petrie, second-round pick at safety. Jonathan Owens, whose fiance is Simone Biles at safety, and a free agent cornerback, Stephen Nelson. And having 4 new starters in secondary is a good thing, because they had one of the worst secondaries in the league. By the way, I got to tell a story right quick.
Sure.
I grew up in Waco, as you guys know, as a diehard Cowboy fan from 1960 when they started until I came down here in 76 and started covering the Oilers. And 2 of my favorite players off the Doomsday defense were Bob Lilly and Chuck Alley. And I've never met Chuck Alley, but I've met Bob Lilly numerous times. And I volunteered on the seniors committee. I didn't volunteer. I requested to present Chuck Alley to our committee to be the senior nominee. And Chuck's waited a long time. He's 86 years old. And I was talking to Bob Lilly during practice about him. And I got off and I pinched myself. You know, you use the expression, you wanted to pinch yourself. And I'm thinking, growing up in Waco and crying when the Cowboys got beat, and then getting mad when they got beat. And here I am presenting Chuck Alley and talking to Bob Lilly, and I'm thinking, how did I get from there to here? It's an incredible honor, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to convince our committee that Chuck Alley is finally deserving of being in the Hall of Fame.
I'm going to say this, and I don't know what your percentage is or your batting average, but when you get behind somebody, it is usually full throttle with everything you do, but you are, I bet your percentages on things like this is pretty high.
Well, I didn't get, one time I represented former Eagles defensive end Claude Humphrey, and he didn't make it, and I felt terrible. And I felt bad for him and his family. And I know they're not expecting it with Howley. But one time, about 3 years before Tom Landry died, he was at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and I was outside, and I asked him if I could ask him a question about the Hall of Fame, and he said, sure, as long as it wasn't for publication. And I said, what former Cowboy is most deserving of being in the Hall of Fame? And this was before we put in Rayfield Wright, Drew Pearson, Cliff Harris, Bob Hayes, and he said, without hesitating, Chuck Alley. And then he went in about why Chuck was so great. And so I'm going to do everything I can. And if I can't do it, it won't be because they don't think he deserves it. It's just they'll think there's others who deserve it more, but I'm giving it everything I got.
Thank you, man. John, always good to hear from you.
Hey, John, I got one more question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was looking at that depth chart. I know Drew Estrada's a long shot. I think he's listed as like the 7th or 8th wide receiver, but have you heard anything just about him and his time with the Texans in camp?
Yeah, he looks good standing on the sideline while he's hurt.
Okay.
When you're an undrafted free agent and you're hurt, then your chances are slim and none and some left out.
Yeah, I didn't know he was injured, so thanks for the update.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. Glad
My
you
pleasure,
asked.
Craig. Thank you, guys.
And?
Oh, he said it already.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he said, well, I thought I was going to give him a double one.
You know, Estrada came over from the Ivy League last year, and he was hurt right away, or pretty close to it. He had hamstring issues, I believe is what it was, and didn't play in the couple early games, and then eventually got settled in and, made some plays here and there. But, yeah, I was wondering about that when I saw his name on the depth chart, but I can go ahead. And that was a long shot to begin with. Like, I was almost surprised he even signed an undrafted free agent deal, so that's cool. That's part of the gig.
There's other leagues, though.
I mean, he could definitely go, probably play in the XFL or something like that. Absolutely. Yeah, there's at least options out there for guys like him.
Well, one of the things is it's a hard business. It's hard to get into, whether you're drafted or not. If you're not, then you really don't have much room for error. But there's many others that have not been drafted, have made the NFL. Some have been are in the Hall of Fame. But when you're in that position, and then you can't practice, that surely your clock is ticking. Good luck to Raleigh. All right.
Apparently Bob Stoops has commented on the Cale Gundy resignation.
All right, what did he say?
He said you can't have a side. There is no right side. There's no right or wrong side. So that sounds like something I need to listen to get more clarification, because just on the surface that doesn't make a ton of sense. But also saw that the PGA just won their little whatever you call it with Live Golf.
I didn't see the actual outcome. I just saw
Judge Freeman, as seemed obvious during the hearing, turns down the TRO for the 3 Live golfers to be able to play in the FedEx Cup playoffs, saying they had not proven irreparable harm or established a likelihood of success on the merits.
Here's one from Kyle Porter, who covers the PGA Tour in Live. The judge said these Live contracts lock up these players in ways the PGA Tour never imagined. They are so restrictive. So it's supposed to be the Live Tour saying the PGA is restrictive, right?
Yeah.
And she is saying the opposite.
Well, I mean, it's almost as if the Saudi government isn't, for the free market. I'm just saying.
Darren Heidner followed up. Of course, Live golfers aren't being irreparably harmed by the PGA Tour. They lost the temporary restraining order battle and will likely lose the main case as well. The guaranteed winners are the big law attorneys who already rack up significant fees. As always, they always win.
Well, if you're going to get $100 million, and you're going to make that money, how is that doing irreparable harm to your career?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know enough about all that. Yeah.
There was a lot that I'm going to go watch the PGA Network, the Golf Channel, when I get home. It's on Channel 70. Coming up, Paul Catalina's Top 5, Sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
This month, Alan Samuels is having the Make This the Summer event on the new 2022 Ram trucks. Designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, these legendary award-winning trucks give you that first-class feel. Luxurious leather-trimmed seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options that you'd expect from a premium truck. Come see our selection today or browse online at AlanSamuelsDCJ.com. Alan Samuels in Waco, the place to shop for Ram trucks.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Welcome back. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Top 5 thoughts on the Big Ten TV deal. We've kind of gone through all this already, but I wanted to recap it at the end of the show for our late arrivers. So number 5, is the market set? So is this really what the market is? Like, what is the number, and how does that drop from league to league now that the Big Ten market is set? And we don't really know the answer to that question, but I'm curious to see what the market will be after that.
Yeah, I mean, could ESPN in theory say, well, they're worth $1.5 billion or whatever the final total is, so that means the Big 12 is worth $500?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the numbers. I'm just throwing that completely like mud.
They could say we offered them 5 years, 380 or whatever it is, that $380 million. That was the offer that was made. But we don't think you're worth $380.
That was one offer.
Yeah, one offer. But like, we don't think you guys.
Wasn't it also for half the game?
Yeah, it's like a slice of the offer.
We offered $380, or this was the offer. Was $380. We think the Pac-12 is worth $275, and the Big 12 is worth $275. And I'm just saying that so that's what we're going to do for that. So you're not going to get $380, but you're going to get $275. And I don't know that. That means $100 million less, but that's what I wonder on down the line with these.
I mean, you are only worth what someone will offer you. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see, a TV, channel that we're talking, or TV channel, but a network that we're talking about. Like, yes, they win. We just spent $350 million on the Big Ten, and we're not going to offer crazy money for the Pac-12 or the Big 12. But I also know that they're smart enough on the other side to go, we know that you like live sports, and we know that you like college football, and we know you like the Dallas market and the Houston market, So that will be an interesting little battle, and that's where Brett Yormark comes into play more than ever. But, yeah, I mean, we don't know what the market is, and certainly you can't judge it just by simply what the Big Ten's doing, because they're in their own little universe with the SEC, obviously.
And number 4, what's the streaming component? Is it Peacock? Is it Paramount Plus? Is Amazon involved in this?
All right, name them. So Amazon, Apple?
I would say in this order, here's who I think would be Peacock, Paramount, Amazon, and then way down the list and fourth would be Apple. That's who'd be really interested in this.
Wait, say that again.
Peacock.
Which is NBC.
Paramount.
CBS.
Because they both have it. Amazon, and then Apple. I don't know if Apple's ready to get into college sports. I don't think that's I mean, I think they'll do pro sports first, and I think that Amazon, like one of those two is going to get the NFL Sunday ticket, so we'll see.
I saw somebody make the joke last night, say, at this rate, Pac-12 After Dark will be on Tubi. And I started laughing so hard.
Which was Fox.
Yeah, so, but you're missing the ABC, ESPN, Disney here as well.
Well, they can't be in the Big Ten deal because they're out.
I thought you were just naming streamers in general.
No, yeah. So it's the stream component of this. So, yeah, ESPN Plus is out of this. Hulu's out of this. So that would leave Paramount and Peacock, or Peacock and Paramount to me, to be the biggest ones. And just based on what I've seen from those two streamers, Peacock might be leaning a little harder into the live sports than Paramount is right now, but that doesn't mean that this opens the door for it. And maybe they both get some of it. I don't know. Who knows? Try to find Yellowstone. It's on like 3 different streaming services. It's kind of like
Starts this fall, right? Another season?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we'll see. Number 3, on the same stations as the NFL on Saturday. And now look, ESPN has the NFL on Monday nights, and Amazon will have them on Thursday nights. And if Amazon is part of the streaming component, then they have that covered too, and just leaving on ESPN. But the value to me in having a day like the Big Ten that you would in the NFL, where fans would kind of surf around. Cross-promotion and all that is huge. And it's really smart to get people, because people are creatures of habit when it comes to watching sports and doing things. So if your habit on Saturday, if they can make that as your same habit on Sunday, then that's pretty good.
Who has more people watching than anything else?
The NFL.
All right, well, that means the Big Ten is going to be promoted by something that has more people watching than anything else.
The way I've always thought about it is, the reason that Southwest Airlines is so easy to fly is they, from the beginning, said, we're going to do away with these kind of things, and we're going to have this. Our flight's going to be cheaper because they're not first class, and, there's open seating and all that stuff. And I've wondered why more people haven't followed that model, especially airlines that have failed, because it's pretty easy to copy. And CBS, and we've had Tim Brando on many times saying, why doesn't college football own Saturday like football? The NFL owns Sunday. Well, CBS, or not CBS, but the Big Ten is trying to do that now. And so I thought that to me is the most impressive part of this deal is the broadcast networks would still get the best ratings on live sports. You're on 3 of the 4 biggest ones, and the 3 that have the NFL during the day on Sunday. So I think that's huge. Number 2, kind of following that, it's broadcast network heavy. And that is big because, look, that CBS 7 o'clock window central, it averages 9 million viewers. The CBS 3:30 averages like 5 million viewers over the years. Though the Fox, those are huge windows, and even bigger than ESPN, the cable stations' individual numbers, because there are still people who don't have cable that way and go over the air.
Will those numbers change because it's the Big Ten, even though there's a massive alumni base, compared to the SEC games?
I would think that there might be some fluctuation, but the Big Ten is betting it's not.
No, I know. It'll be interesting to see how that falls.
Yeah. I think
not falls down,
and I do think, and I didn't get into this, I don't think the Big Ten will have as many marquee matchups as the SEC does, because the bottom of the SEC is a little bit shallower. I mean, there's not than the bottom of the Big Ten right now. Now, that can always change over time, but, there's not too many big duds in the SEC where both teams are like womp, womp, womp. So, as there are in the Big Ten, where you could get a Northwestern Indiana game, and that one's not going in prime time. So, bottom line. And number 1, no ESPN. I mean, like this, the reason we bring this up again is ESPN is out of this, and they've had a long relationship with it. And
will they go to game day at any of the Big Ten sites?
Is it worth it to them to go to game day?
Let's do Big Noon Kickoff, Fox.
Yeah, that's Big Noon Kickoff. So sometimes now there are Big Noon Kickoff games and game day games in the same spot. But now does ESPN, want to go and through all that trouble when they could go and promote
number 1 against number 2, and let's say it is Ohio State against Michigan.
Yeah,
they're not going to go there unless it's because it's the weekend of like some other massive rivalry, they're not going to be at the game in college football because they don't have the games.
And like those are things that I wonder, especially if you have 4 other brands to promote under your umbrella, which if let's just say everything stays mostly status quo and they make good deals for the Pac-12 and Big 12, now you have to kind of put the weight that you put behind the SEC and ACC, maybe not as much as the SEC, behind those other leagues. So, yeah, you got to promote them. So, yeah, maybe you're not there. Maybe you're at Clemson versus Miami that same week.
I don't think anything necessarily prevents them from doing that. Yeah, so they could in theory if they want to. And I think if there's an unavoidable situation, you know, I mean, what do you put in opposite Ohio State, Michigan if Fox Big Noon Kickoff is there? Like, what is the game you're throwing up against that?
Yeah.
Is it, you know, is it Texas Tech Baylor? Okay, that's probably, you know what? Yeah, we should probably go to Ohio State, Michigan too. You know, and I say that with all due respect for both of those schools, but like audience-wise, it's not even close. So, yeah, I think that they'll be smart about that, but yeah, it doesn't, you know, ban them from being able to do so, but I'm sure they'll be calculated, you know, in regards to what they pick and choose and how they do that. I definitely don't think they're going to be going there on a regular basis to promote something that's not theirs.
It will be interesting. It will be interesting how they do that. And Bob Thompson said earlier he thought he heard the concerns about how ESPN handled the NHL when they lost it to NBC, but he said he didn't quite see much of a drop off. I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know.
It's you know, to be fair to hockey, it's college football versus hockey. You know, I think there's also that as well. If look, I'm going to see more hockey probably if it's on ESPN than if it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I am. College football, I'm going to go seek out. But I'm not seeking out hockey necessarily. And so if it's on ESPN, then boom, I'll probably see it. But if it's not, then I probably am not going to see it. So I think there is something to being on ESPN. I just think that it's not the end-all, be-all necessarily. It's not the only route to go, whereas at one point in time they were.
Yeah.
And they played a role into where we are now. And, you know.
Yep. The Congo, ESPN's trying to say they quit before the Big Ten fired them.
Yeah. In some ways, yeah.
Yeah. We appreciate all the chat. Man, there's so many we couldn't even get to. And we appreciate all of you who are a part of it. The super chats that I think today, Levi, am I right? I've read all of them. After yesterday, we did unfortunately skip over Phil, our good buddy from UNLV or from Vegas, but we got him on. Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, and Garrett Ross, as always, rolling with what they do to post everything we do, make us sound and look good as well. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thank you all, our great sponsors that allow us to do this every day, and you who watch Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.